So, welcome to another episode of the Mesmerise podcast. We have Matthew Davidson of Repulsive Vision. Now,
Going.
how are you doing, mate?
Not too bad, mate. Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Brilliant.
And yourself?
Repulsive. I'm perfectly fine, dude. After the 12-minute conversation that we were having about all sorts and Star Wars and everything else, so we decided, yeah, maybe we should actually record this. People might actually want to listen to this. Um, but yeah, so band Repulsive Vision. Now, here's the first thought that came to mind when I was watching music videos that were sent across. I looked at that, and from a name like Repulsive Vision, you'd think everyone in the band would be a little bit, troll faced. But I looked at it, I was like, actually, they're all quite handsome blokes. I
It's
think
all a mask.
it's
Like
all
the opposite of
makeup,
what?
opposite of Lordy.
Yeah, exactly. No, well, Repulsive Vision came from a documentary I was watching about video nasties. A lot of the first album was inspired by video nasties and censorship. And Mary Whitehouse, back in 1984, tried to pretty much ban horror films, and one of the things she called them was Repulsive Vision. So I felt that it was quite a good kind of explanation of what we were trying to do at that time, anyway.
Yeah, so I didn't know that. I'm fully aware of the whole in music because I'm just absolutely obsessed with music. It's ridiculous. I'm probably ill. Yeah, like I know a lot about the parental
PMRC.
advisory sticker, which I find so interesting. Mainly out of the fact that two of my favourite musicians were part of it, Frank Zappa and Dee Snider.
Mm.
It's like, it's Al Gore's ex-wife. So, oh, okay, great. He was hunting man bear pigs, so she got bored and decided
I
to do
mean,
that instead.
literally the exact same year, 1984, when the PMRC were trying to ban the Filthy 15, the heavy metal and Wasp and all that kind of stuff, over in the UK, you had Margaret Thatcher and Mary Whitehouse trying to ban horror films. So that's where you get your video nasties list, your I Spit on Your Grave, the Cannibal Holocaust, Zombie Flesh Eaters, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But it was one of the things she used in her states. I can't find that particular documentary like at all now. I mean, but for some reason she said, "Oh, this is repulsive vision. This is horrendous. I don't know why you would want to watch this." And I thought that was such a great phrase. So I stole it, obviously. But that's where the look past the gore and see the art came from. It was basically about, even though something is showing you horrendous visuals. I think one of the biggest examples is Cannibal Holocaust, where it is absolutely horrendous, but really it's got a message behind it, saying that maybe we're the savages, not them, and it's very much a poignant film, especially at that time. But all anyone ever talks about is the gore. They
Mm,
don't talk about the reason behind a lot of this. And it's quite a social commentary. I Spit on Your Grave is horrendous, but it's really a feminist film.
mm,
It's showing the horrendous things that men do to women and having her as a revenge
yeah,
attack and going against the men, and it's empowering in that sense.
yeah. Like
And
you
I
have
think
a lot of some of the newer movies where you have this very attractive, beautiful woman killing just random, just these disgusting blokes, and all anyone will talk about, oh, it's really fun. It's this really, hot chick killing blokes. Like, no, it's female empowerment. It's a very simple message. It's very easy to see. A lot of people don't see beyond what they're seeing. Essentially, they don't
exactly.
read into the messages. I mean, not anything like, oh, this camera angle means this, and this camera angle means that. I mean, yeah, within a degree, you get that sense of feeling, but some of it is a lot more obvious, which a lot of people don't take into account or notice because I think same with music. I'm ranting now. Um, we take art for granted and we just consume it. We don't think about it. We don't do anything with it. We just have it. We just consume it.
Absolutely. I think it's very easy to kind of just see something on face value, read a book by its cover, as we normally say, you know. But there's so much beyond what's actually there, and we've always been anti-censorship, but in recent times we've kind of looked at how we've brought those kind of ideas to ourselves, because there are things that I believe should be censored, at least to certain people. And those,
Mm.
I do think that I don't think any kid should watch like a certain horror film or anything like that. I know I did when I was 12. I watched horror films, but I don't think that that should be open to younger children, because it could be impressionable, and in a negative sense. Although I do think that a lot of the comments in that 1984 kind of era were about social decline, and it was going to cause severe mental illness and all this kind of stuff, and really significant issues with children and adults who were watching these horror films, to the point where they wanted to ban them. The parental advisory sticker wasn't meant to tell parents, oh yeah, this album isn't suitable for your child. That was telling retailers, you don't want to sell that because it's got
Yeah.
offensive material in it. So it was practically censoring those albums. One album in particular was Dead Kennedy's album.
Mm.
I think it's Frankenchrist, I think, and it had a picture from H.R. Geiger in it. And because of that, it had a parental advisory sticker, and it was removed from pretty much every major retailer. And that's why Jello Biafra was very prominent in the 90s when they were continuing this.
Mm. Out of curiosity, as yeah, I'm a bit of an uneducated fool in this regard. What was the movie that created the cataclysm of the whole of that entire of that movement of trying to get horror films banned? Because I know with the music, with the music one, it was Prince's Purple Rain, which is hilarious because he didn't do shit to try and protect it at all. He's just like, well, fuck it.
Now, what it was Tipper Gore discovered her daughter daughter or son listening to Wasp's "Animal Fuck Like a Beast," and she also had "Darling Nikki," which was the song by Prince.
Yeah.
Which I think it had the line "masturbating in an elevator" or something like that.
Something like
And
that. And it was ridiculous. It's just it's as you said yourself. There should be some censorship for certain people who can't understand or process what they're feeling or what they've just seen. That's why I find when you let your child, I think a lot of this does come down when you've got a kid or you've got an impressionable teenager and it's not explained.
no, it's
Like
not.
I played GTA when I was 12, and I knew it was a video game. I didn't feel like I need to go out and shoot people, drag hookers into my car and run them over to get my money back.
Yeah, exactly. But we had that cognitive sense of what's right and wrong. That's not to say that there are other people who have that tendency, and there have been people who have committed suicide while listening to Judas Priest, for example, and they got dragged over the coals over that. They nearly got arrested, like jailed.
Didn't have like two cases like that, or was it just
There
the
was
one?
one. There was one for Judas Priest and there was one for Ozzy Osbourne, and they both pretty much
Yeah,
got thrown out about the same kind of time.
yeah, because that's what I'm getting mixed up with. Because I know the Aussie one was he was listening to, I can't remember what song he was listening to. I think it was something from Ultimate Sin,
Suicide
and
Solution.
and he just shot himself. Which
I think that you're thinking of the Judas Priest one.
go on.
Yeah, Dream Deceivers. Basically, this kid, this kid and his friend made a suicide pact while listening to Judas Priest. One of them actually died. One of them survived, and then they tried to campaign to get rid of Judas Priest.
It's ridiculous. I just find it's ridiculous just because you can't explain. Just because someone doesn't have the he doesn't. These people don't understand the right context of things. therefore all they do is blame the actual source material, which is like it's like I guess because I've not seen anything like that at all, like H.P. Lovecraft. Um,
Oh,
just as an example, just as a very sheer brute example, H.P. Lovecraft was a very very racist man.
mm,
He's created some extraordinary stories. However, nonetheless, he was a very racist man. Um, I've read the Necronomicon. I've read media like that. Not once did I think, oh, okay, I'm gonna go be racist. I'm gonna be a heavily racist person.
but think about all the people that have read Catcher in the Rye, you know, and didn't go and murder John Lennon.
Yeah, but
You know?
because one or two people did, it takes one person to ruin it for everyone.
Absolutely, and I think that this is why a lot of podcasts, particularly about sensitive subjects, have this viewer discretion is advised. So you can choose that they're pre-warning you that this is difficult to watch and may trigger kind of some feelings. Some in people who have had to suffer through those kind of situations in the past. You know.
Oh yeah, and of course, and it's absolutely fantastic that we are able to have these discussions that need to be had. Um, quite recently, actually, speaking of that, there's one thing that I found quite interesting that I saw the other day. I'm not sure if you're much of a video game person, but there's an old game that recently received the mod, Morrowind, which is one of the old Elder Scrolls games.
Old
For those
Scrolls.
who
Yeah.
don't know, it's one of the prequels to Skyrim and Oblivion and so on and so forth. The name of the series is Elder Scrolls, and in Morrowind, there's a lot of NPCs that have a lot of like sexual harassment towards the player character. So there's been a mod created to remove that or just to change the wording so they're not sexually harassing you. Which is like that's fantastic because someone might feel so upset from getting that. But then
And,
yeah, and that's more than fair. You don't have to have the mods. I'm sure there's people that are in an uproar. Oh, but that's how it was made back then. You can't mess with art. So that's fine. No one's telling you have to download the mod. It's completely your choice to have it.
I think that as long as things are clearly signposted, I think that obviously I'm speaking from a privileged point of view where I've never had to deal with that kind of situation, so it wouldn't be something that would affect me in the same way. But I think that it's important. It's the reason why we have 18 on our videos,
Yeah.
and we have very clear things of this contains nudity, this contains gore, this contains. And with the internet, we can do our research and we can find what's in it, which is fantastic. But to blindside someone, that's a bit wrong.
Yeah.
You'll never find you'll never feel blindsided by a Cannibal Corpse record. And I think that that's important. Is that as long as you know what's there, and it would be terrible to have a game. I mean, I suppose something like Earthbound, back in was it late 80s, early 90s, which seemed like a happy kind of game until you got to the end, and it was horrendous,
Mm.
And I don't know, maybe I'm.
No, and it completely makes sense. I mean, yeah, you have some of this. You have age ratings for a reason.
Exactly.
I think the only thing that I disagree with age ratings in general is just the difference between sexual content and violent content. Where, as an example, you have like, oh, you see a bit of nipple, that's rated 18. In this game, you can kill 200 people in seconds with an automatic. Oh, that's rated 15. So
Yeah.
isn't that more psychologically scarring if you don't understand that than seeing a bit of nipple?
I know. I agree. Absolutely. I think that it's. We've all got them, so I don't understand why it's quite as bad. But I do think that there's probably a deeper meaning, probably regarding minors more than anything else.
Yeah.
That's probably why, and though those kind of laws have been there for hundreds of years, and they're there for a good reason,
Yeah.
So I think that quite a lot of that is just to kind of cover their asses.
Oh yeah, no, I know
Yeah.
that's that, but I know that there's a large difference between censorship in those two subjects between Europe and America.
Oh yes, of course there is. Yeah.
Like a game like God of War's got both, which is like okay, that's fair enough. It's extremely violent, and
Mm,
there's nipples. Fine.
yeah.
There's lots and lots. That's fine. You've got something like, say, I don't know. You've got a puzzle game like Catherine, which is I don't think there's any explicit nudity in that. I've not played through it enough, but there's a lot of quite uh, risque bits in there, and I think that's rated 18.
Mm.
While you've got something like Call of Duty, and we all know of the uh, you know don't speak Russian scene,
Oh yeah.
which rated 15. I personally have a very big uh, I've got a lot of trouble understanding why that wouldn't be switched over exactly. But
I get the impression that um, it'll be kind of like I'll give you an example. When Harry Potter's Chamber of Secrets was first tested, it came out with a 12 rating. Now, the company campaigned to try and get this moved to a PG rating because obviously the fear and all, not the violence as such. I mean, it's kind of like a preteen film rather
yeah,
than
like
kind of an
there's a slight horror aspect in the movie.
exact. So they wanted to make sure it was PG to make more money.
Yeah,
Now, I think Call of Duty, being the game that it is, I think it was the best-selling game of all time or something.
it's very highly rated. That I remember.
I think that there's got to be something behind the scenes that has influenced that decision from it being 18 to 15, and I think that some things can get overlooked
Yeah.
for that point. Warner Brothers knew they were going to make a load more money if it was on PG than 12.
Oh yeah.
In fact, the 12 rating was created for that exact reason
Oh yeah.
because beforehand they had PG and 15.
Of course, but yeah, I think that is something that can be debated forever and ever and ever, and it all depends on what your personal views are as an individual, and that's perfectly fine.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the point. Having discussions like this shows that not everyone thinks the same,
100%.
and some of it is some of it is harmless, some of it is bigger, but yeah, a lot of it is just simply okay. You think differently, that's fine.
And
But
that's the epitome.
yeah,
That's the epitome of look past the gore and see the art. It's looking about what that means to you and what it means to other people. And I think I was perhaps a bit naive when we first did that first album, and with the subsequent albums, we've kind of gone away from the censorship kind of side, but we still maintain something of a truthful aspect to what we write about. I've never been one for writing about fantasy.
yeah.
I just can't do it. I physically can't do it. I prefer to kind of watch a documentary and take the points that I feel are important and say something about it. And obviously, the Napalm Death kind of inspiration and all that, a lot of that punk kind of ideal that we've got in the music is so ingrained in that.
No, and and that makes complete sense. It's a brilliant way that you brought that back, by the way. Very well done.
I could talk.
I feel like I need to compliment you on that because that was actually very, very, very good to put that back to the films because I think we did go into a bit of a spiral there. But no, and you're completely right. I think it does come down to finding a happy median of people who, yeah, I understand everything that's going on here. I'm an artist. I understand this, and this. To someone who watches something casually and doesn't understand and just sees what's right in front of them. And yeah, no, that's a very, very good point. And I'm more than happy to acknowledge that I'm wrong. Hi
Oh,
everyone, I'm
believe
wrong.
me, it's it's harder to go out and say something with all guns blazing and this is how I believe. And then years later, you grow up and you think, God, I released that. Wow, not
Mm.
that there's anything particularly controversial, but in fact, I'm currently writing a song called Hypocrisy about this exact subject. That there's things on the first album, not necessarily that I'm ashamed of, but there's things that I'm questioning. I'm constantly trying to question what I'm saying and what I'm watching. I think that's important. Because it raises more questions, and I want people to think about it. This particular song, it's just about kind of saying, well, you know what? Maybe I do believe in censorship in some respects. Maybe I'm a hypocrite in saying, oh, censorship should be banned, and you need to look past all this, and forget about the gore and all that kind of stuff and the horrendous stuff because there's a reason behind it. There's a political statement. When really I'm kind of thinking, well, actually, maybe I do want, you know, what was it, One Guy, One Hammer
Yeah.
banned. I do want snuff films, if they do exist, banned, And does that make me a hypocrite? Or,
I
you
think
know,
I think it comes down to the point of everyone is a hypocrite in some way. We all are. There's no way that you can avoid being a hypocrite in some way or form. I think it comes down to you can't make complete ultimatums. I think there's always like a middle point that everyone has within a degree. As you were saying, I don't believe in censorship, but I do believe there should be some censorship here and there, and that does make complete sense. And it's it's relevant. Things like that are relevant. The problem is what a lot of people have in general discussion, everyday discussion, is they only look at the ultimatum. They don't see or acknowledge that there is an in between. There is that middle point, as you so yeah so cleverly pointed out. It does make sense, and it should be like that. Like yeah, there's a lot of things that if you take context and reasoning behind it, it makes it the way you view something will be different.
absolutely, absolutely. I think every day that we grow, we learn. Every day we kind of think back on what we've said and what we've done and what we intake. We're thought machines. We take in every bit of information and stimuli that we have in our outside world, and we process it. Now we can choose to ignore it. We can choose to not really think about it, but sometimes it's subconscious the way that we grow, and I think that's fascinating.
It's basically
How we,
precognitive conditioning when you get down to it.
absolutely, absolutely. It's when you think I released that first album 3 years ago. I probably wrote it about five or 6 years ago, and within that time, I've been able to look at it and read through it and grow and think about what I can do to be better. Because I do believe I'm a better person now than I was back then. I'm certainly more experienced in the world, and if you're not growing, then you're going backwards.
Of course, I mean, yeah, I mean, you need to grow every day. You're supposed to grow. Not everyone decides to grow. Some
Mm,
people decide to stay the way they are, or even go backwards.
yeah,
And that all comes down to the individual person, and I think does heavily rely on your surroundings as that
environment.
individual person. That because yeah, it if you are in an environment of intolerant people, you are likely going to be an intolerant person yourself. While vice versa, the other argument could be made.
It's indoctrination, and that goes for pretty much everything, even if it's a positive or a negative kind of thing. If if you're in this particular bubble of a certain kind of viewpoint or stylistic choice, for example, if you grew up listening to nothing but metal, it's more than likely that you're going to grow up listening to nothing but metal, unless in that environment there's more opportunities for you to diversify.
No, and you, I think diversity. I think general diversity is very important, whether it's musical, whether it's cultural, whether it's
Mm,
yada yada yada. It's something that is important because it helps you grow as a general human being.
absolutely, absolutely.
Now let's go back to the band. Being
What band?
don't worry.
What?
What? Oh, this is just a friendly chat. Didn't you know? This isn't really a podcast. So I'm just really really lonely, so I just invite people to chat for hours.
You're
I've
one of
done.
me.
Uh, but no, this is actually a podcast. Eh, not that you think, oh fuck, what am I doing? I could be doing something more important. Now, yeah. Question I did have is, what difference has it made being signed to a label, as you guys are currently signed with the Mighty Music label? There we go, plugging the label right here and now.
Wrong label.
Is it the wrong label?
We're now with Emancipation.
Oh, are you? Oh, okay. Because oh, all right. Because the EP, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
'Cause
We released the first album with Mighty Music, but I mean, technically, you're correct, but
no,
I'm
no, I'm
just being
wrong. I'm wrong.
facetious.
Just call me out on it. It's fine. I'll accept it. I fucked up. My bad.
No, what's happened is Mighty Music wanted to work with us again for our second album, but this time around, because Mighty Music is largely a Nwabum label, they wanted to have a part that was focused on death metal. So Emancipation is a sub-label of Mighty Music. So technically, you're correct.
I'm kind of correct. I didn't screw up too badly.
No, but for me, I think that in this day and age when everyone's kind of doing a lot of their own promotion with social media, it makes it very easy, and there's certain ways of kind of, like throwing your music everywhere. If you can do it well, then that's fantastic. For us, I think that a label is an important factor if you don't have those contacts.
Yeah.
It's very hard in this day and age because obviously everyone's doing the same old stuff where they're spamming email addresses, they're spamming Facebook, and like my page, like my page. But everyone's doing that, and to be able to take that step above, you need to have that person who knows, like personally knows that contact at that magazine. You know, you don't want to be any of the 100,000 demos they get a week. You want to get the one demo that was sent by the friend of the reviewer, so you're definitely getting in. That's the importance of a label.
The funny thing is, I had a podcast before this. This is like 3 years ago. No, 2 years ago. I'm still getting emails from one particular person from bands that they represent. I'm just like, I'm not bloody interested. I've not gotten back to you. I'm just on your list now. You're not
Yeah,
sending me
exactly.
anything that I'm interested in. Stop sending me more fucking bands, please. They might be absolutely fantastic, and they might be my next favourite band. But I don't want to listen to it because you're just sending me shit without telling me or trying to contact me with this. Like, yeah, there's loads of radio guys that I know who get that as well. It's just like one guy, Reese from Listen to Ray. He, I think I know he gets emails from some people who, because he has a metal radio show, and they're sending him like jazz and pop and shit. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that's not what my show is. You clearly
No,
haven't filed it in the right place at the very least. So for God's
exactly.
sake.
It's that personal connection. It's the care, and I mean, I don't tend to mind if I get band requests, like requests. That gives me the option to go and find them. I don't mind that at all. What I don't like is people messaging me to say, vote for my band to play Shitfest 2019.
I just hate anything that requires you to vote because that's
Yeah,
not. I think it's not. No, it is a step. If you can manage that, if you can get enough people to vote for yourself, that shows that you do have a fan base that would do it. But it's I don't think it's as positively viewed as if you worked to get there yourself.
it's a bit false, and to be honest, I do think that it's a bit of a marketing tactic used by promoters. So basically, all these bands will be sharing it to their fan base. I guarantee that a lot of these polls, you'll have thousands of people voting for this festival that'll barely get 50 people there.
Yeah.
I think that that's very dishonest. Oh, there's bands that asked all of their fans of 20,000 people, and they all voted, but none of them are going to turn up, and
It's
it's
false
so
data.
yeah, exactly. I think if and believe me, I've been guilty of myself. Back when I was promoting, I think I've done like, oh, we've got one empty slot. Who do you want on this? And I think I realised that like early on, like this just isn't right, because the one, not necessarily the one that I didn't want, won, but kind of one that I knew was never going to bring any people in. They didn't really suit the festival, but I'd given my promise that I had to do it. So I felt a bit kind of bittersweet about it. That
Yeah.
I was glad to give them the opportunity, but I also felt like, well, that kind of backfired really.
And that's fair. I
Uh,
mean, you've taken a risk at the very least, and you've learned from it. As you said, you grow every day as a person.
Absolutely.
There we go. And
I
no,
felt
I
I
think
felt wrong for them as well. I felt wrong for them because they probably deserved better.
yeah, and you're completely right. I mean, what you were saying earlier on about um, we're going back to precognitive behaviour and your
Mm,
environment is a lot of people slate the idea of you being with not you yourself, but generally bands like, oh, you're with a label, but you could do it yourself, or
yes.
you're gonna fail because you're a label, blah blah. It's like, yeah, but then you have the thought of, okay, I don't have all these contacts, I don't have all of this. I do need the help for someone to help me with this, and that makes complete sense. Do I need to? Yeah, do I have all these contacts and magazines? Fantastic, I'll do it myself. But I'm not a booking agent. I don't know how to book gigs. Fine, but get a booking agent or get a friend who has the time to do that. You either build a team around yourself or you find a team. I think
Exactly.
that's the important thing. I mean, that's something that I'm learning myself. I've only had a band for really. We've only started being a proper band until 2019, playing gigs and stuff. I think until you start playing gigs, you're not really a band.
Hmm.
I'm probably wrong. I'm sure there's some people like, oh my god, no, this is great studio musician. He's fantastic. He's making more money than you. It's like, probably is, and good on him. Good on him that
I
he
think
doesn't need a day job anymore.
to me, I think that's the difference between a band and a project.
Hmm.
A project, you kind of you're doing a studio project. You're not kind of playing as a band.
Yeah, and that no, and you're completely right with that. One thing that I find quite funny is it's definitions with music. I think in music and film things, you have a lot of personal definitions of things. Like myself, I could say, "Oh, I've been in loads and loads of bands. We've never played any gigs. This is the first band that I'm playing gigs with. So the way I see it is this is my first band because I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing with a band. But then again, that comes down to personal definition.
Well, even then, there's nothing to say that any of the previous projects didn't have kind of merit or anything like that.
I know
I've
it's
had
a
plenty.
learning curve.
Yeah, I wish I had taken more time and not had the kind of some of the bands that I was in previously. I was in a lot of bands that were soul destroying. I've been in bands since I was about 14.
Mm.
I think I started my first band back then playing Misfits and Metallica covers. And along with all the other Misfits and Metallica cover bands that were around the scene at the time. And I think I wish I would have held back a bit and learnt more myself. Although I have learnt a lot from the experiences of playing live, and there's etiquette and there's importance of how you treat other bands and how important it is to network while you're at these gigs. But I don't think there's anything to be said. If you're playing music, there's merit in it.
Yeah, no, and you're completely right. I think one thing that, and again, you can call me out on this, which you've done throughout the last 30 minutes, which is fantastic. I love being called out. I sound sarcastic, but I'm actually not. I'm really bad at showing whether I'm being sarcastic or not. I'm not. Um, um, is we're all there to help. Well, we should be helping each other out
Mm.
because we're not in competition, or unless you are trying to be in competition. But I've been reading lots of like music business books and finding lots of guys who do like band management, etc., etc. So I thought, like, I'm not doing something right. I'm gonna take a step and do a bit more research. And I made this comment again. We're going back to me getting called out, which was, oh, you need to try and compete with the other bands. Blah, blah. It was something dumb. I said something dumb. I remember that, and he made a point of like, you're not competing with other bands or other music. You're competing with other entertainment that's around, like Netflix and Amazon Prime and stuff like that. And I thought that's actually very true because when you get down to it, every band is different. Every bit of music is different. It's like saying, um, you're the good, the bad, and the ugly is competing against twins. Yeah, they're both in
Mm.
the same medium and they have similar kind of actors, but yeah, someone who likes twins may not necessarily like the good, the bad, and the ugly. So why would they compete? It wouldn't make sense. It's a waste of time and resources.
Absolutely. First of all, I'm not trying to call you out.
I know the
Just
other guy called me out. That's what I was
uh,
pointing out. Sorry.
no, but to be honest, I think that all kind of stems from what we said before. You know, it's about learning, and I think that there has to be a sense of healthy rivalry. There are
Yeah.
certain bands in our scene that, you know, not necessarily we're rivals with. I'm not naming any names, but we're not necessarily rivals with. But at the same time, we look at what they're doing and they look at what we're doing and think, right, okay, how can we improve to be better than them? Not necessarily in a nasty way, but kind of think, oh, they're doing this, right? Okay, what can we do?
Yeah, but
It's
that's just
inspiring.
yeah that. But that's just that's finding a solution. That's problem solving. That's
Yeah,
all that it is, and that's fantastic. You need to do problem solving. Yeah, I mean that's fantastic. I feel like a lot of bands and people get a lot. Again, if in music, I think you get that quite a lot because I think music fans, a lot of musicians are very high and mighty in the way they like to think. So, oh, you can't do that, you can't do this. Like, nah, fuck off. No, I'm going to do this because it makes sense. There's no reason I shouldn't do this. As you said, comparing to other bands, you're not being like, oh, they're shit. I can do this better. No,
mm,
I'm sure your fault and what their fault is. Okay, I saw they've done a music video doing this and this. Okay, I've looked at this. Okay, I feel like I can do the same thing for a smaller price. Or oh, that's really cool. But I do think I can do this better. But that's just
yeah,
music in general. Why would you not want to do something and feel like, oh, I like doing this, but I feel like I can do this better? And I think that's something that's very important. Like, um, say you want to do I don't know. Say you do like an Iron Maiden type new wave of British heavy metal band. Oh, Iron Maiden's really good. I don't like the production. Okay, I can do the production better, or I can do it different. Not necessarily. Okay, let me take that back with the better bit.
mm.
Different, which
More,
suits
more
more to
modern.
what yeah, which suits more to what I like to listen to. Like, oh, I don't quite like the bass. I like the riffs, so I turn the bass down. So just stuff like that. And that's what a lot of music comes from. That's what a lot of it stems from. And that's what I've personally done with my band, which is an industrial rock slash metal band. Like, I love Rammstein, I love Depeche Mode, I love all the bands that we've taken inspiration from. There's certain bits where, oh, this is really great. Oh, if I can do something like this, but I'd like to see this vision of it.
Mm.
I think using the word better may have been it was incorrect because it's not better. I'm still working a day job, so
Well, but believe me, I think I get what you're saying. I think it's kind of it's motivation, it's inspiration, and it's improvement. It's progression with yourself. like for me, punk's always been something that I've grown up with. It's such an important part of me. Um, you know, there is just nothing like the energy of punk, and you'll find that when you listen to a lot of RV stuff, especially the new album when it comes out, it's all it's how can I put it? It's hell bent for leather.
Mm.
It's all very fast. I've never been good at writing slow riffs or anything like that. It's all kind of in your face. Um, Usually it's quite barked out. We've experimented with a bit of black metal and a bit of thrash metal in this new album, but it's punk as well as death metal because of course Death, Carcass, Obituary, all these bands have got a very punk element to them, but
Yeah.
we take it a step further in that way. Um, we're definitely not innovative. We're definitely not one of these bands that say, "Oh yeah, our style's unique." I sent it to our label the first time, and his first message back was, "Hey, I heard you like Carcass." You
What,
know,
with a C or K?
with a C. I heard you like Carcass. Oh, a bit of a surprise there, but I think that you have to remember, and this is one of the positives for me about uh, the decline of the music industry. Although I'm a physical buyer, I prefer to have a physical product, and obviously I know that it's going to completely decimate the prospects of many bands, especially niche bands. A lot of bands are being formed with no kind of prospects of success in a kind of mainstream major label kind of way. So with that in mind, they can experiment more. They can look at it and think, right, okay, well, I know I'm never going to get signed to Roadrunner or Metal Blade or anything like that because they're signing, should we say, generic metal bands,
They,
or
they,
that they,
Probably the better wording for that might be they have a certain criteria.
yeah, probably. Oh, yeah, generic's probably a bit unfair. It's kind of a sound which is more middle of the road for metal fans that
Yeah.
could suit that. Yeah. So there's a lot of bands creating innovative stuff out of just being so anti-mainstream that they're being mainstream. I think Blood Incantation is probably a good example. Tomb Mold are a good example. Gatecreeper less so. I think they're just copying a certain style, but doing it very well.
Mm.
But there are a lot of bands who are pushing for a new kind of style out of the knowledge that they know they won't get signed to this. Undergang is another great example.
Well, that's the thing. I think you get a lot of bands like. I think you have certain areas where you get a lot of bands like that, and you get one or two or a handful even that stick out. Like you've had the new metal scene, but that was something different. That was like a whole different thing. I think one of the bands that comes to mind at the moment would be Code Orange.
Oh,
They
of course, yeah.
they've stuck out quite a bit, and they're very different. I've not listened to a lot of their stuff. I think I've listened to bits and wasn't quite into it, but I know at that time I wasn't really in the mood to listen to something new. You have to be in the mindset for certain things.
Hmm. Absolutely. I saw Code Orange supporting At the Gates and Triptychon maybe about
Ooh.
5 years ago, and they were more of a hardcore band at that point. I didn't really get them because it's not really my scene, but I think that they've really kind of gone into their own kind of way, and I'm all supportive of them changing their style to be more kind of unique in a sense. You
Yeah,
know, it's great to see bands still thriving to be interesting.
and and that's what and that's fantastic in itself. There is a band that's come up quite recently, which I don't know what I think of it, which I think is probably quite a good thing as well
Mm.
because it is unique, it is very different. A lot of people, I've seen a lot of comments. I think I ignore online comments at this point because usually it's just negative. But then if you look at it, you're like, well, they're clearly not that hated. They're clearly like Ghost or Five Finger Death Punch. It's
Mm.
like you get so many comments about, oh, they're really shit, they're really horrible. So, yeah, but Ghost are playing the Royal Albert Hall tomorrow. They're
Mm.
not shit. You can't really say they're a shit band. That yeah, actually, this actually does stem from Five Finger Death Punch. Is the drummer that they had has a new like industrial band called Psychosexual.
Oh, we're not going to go there, are we?
No, no, no. I'm not giving opinions on that. That's why I said I'm not sure if I like it or not. I do see a lot of people not liking it. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
really. What I'm saying is I'm very curious to see where that goes. I'm genuinely curious to see what the world's the actual world's reaction is to this.
I want to just say it's kind of as if a a businessman in a big suit thought, this sounds like the kids will like it, and gave it a record deal. It was kind of like when you had the new metal scene. I mean, everyone always talked about Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park and Papa Roach and Slipknot on the huge success stories. They don't talk about Edema or Spineshank, you
Hmm.
know. And no disrespect to them, but still a lot of it. Powerman 5000, for example, there's another one, and you think, well, a lot of this was record labels not really knowing what was successful about those successful bands, but knowing that there's other bands who were almost like it that they could exploit. That's kind of what I'm feeling about. Is it Psychosexual?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I do see that. No, I do completely get where you're coming from. I think it comes down to. Have you ever seen this old video of Frank Zappa about record labels?
fantastic
I
video. Yeah,
love that video. My favourite video on the internet because for those of you who haven't seen it, go watch it. But giving a bit of context to people, um, all Frank Zappa talks about is because he's come from the 70s into the 80s into 90s, about mid 80s, I'd say. About mid 80s, you had like um, in the original record labels, you had these cigar chomping old guys who are like, "Oh, I don't know what kids listen to. They might like this. Let's just put it out. Let's put it out there." And you had all this experimental music that managed to come out due to this. However, one day they thought, okay, we need to recoup some of our losses. How about this? We get some long-haired hippie to just tell us what the kids like. We won't let him do anything important at first. We'll just get him to bring
make the
coffee.
tea. Yeah,
Yeah, just do that. And then if he does that, okay, he's brought the coffee on time. He's done it quite well. All right, let's give him an actual job. Let's get him to do something proper. Okay, so on and on and on and on. The old guy is off his desk. Now you've got the long-haired hippie. However, instead of being with the attitude of, oh, we'll just put it out, it's like, no, 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 I'm a young guy. I know exactly what I want. I'm actually saying this absolutely. I'm pretty much stating this all verbatim at this stage.
yeah. I was going to say you're pretty much saying it like word for word. So yeah, and the old hippie saying, "Oh no, the kids won't like that because I was one of the kids and I know what I'm talking about." And so that's the kind of person you need out of the leadership because you know at least the guys that didn't know what they were doing knew they didn't know what they were doing,
Yeah.
and they just put it out. Whatever. We'll release Captain Beefheart and and Frank Zappa stuff. I mean, think Alice Cooper would never have had a record deal at that time.
No, I don't think he would. That's the thing, though. Again, like, did you know Alice Cooper's actually got quite a lot of roots to Frank Zappa?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, Frank Zappa was the one that signed him. There's a great story about it where he said, "Okay, turn up at my house for this like interview kind of thing, this audition." And he said, "Turn up my house at 8." So 8 in the morning, Alice Cooper turned and said, "No, I meant 8 in the evening." Oh, right. They turned up like all the way from Detroit.
That's
You've got
brilliant.
you've got to see the Alice Cooper documentary. I think it's called Super Duper Alice Cooper. It's fantastic.
That's the thing. Alice Cooper, what a legend. What an absolutely lovely guy. I think out, out of all the people that I'd love to meet, just in a normal, general setting, Alice Cooper. Because he seems like such a genuinely nice guy. I've never
Yeah.
heard a bad thing about the man in my entire life.
I'd love to meet Ozzy. Ozzy or Tony Iommi, it would make my life, you know. But
That's,
Alice, I'd obviously love to meet Alice as well, and
that's the thing. He's married. to his wife for like 60 years now, I think.
Alice, oh yeah.
He's been married to her for ages. So I just thought it's something very, very sweet to just throw in there. For that's so nice.
He's the ultimate kind of Jekyll and Hyde when it comes to these kind of things. I know most of us are kind of we're real people at the end
Yeah.
of the day. Even all these kind, I mean, apart from G.G. Allen, I'm not going to say that, but we are real people at the end of the day, and as much as we'll go out there and we'll scream and we'll play our heavy music about Satan and all this, but we're all real people with the same kind of shit, and I think that that's a big lesson that you have to learn in a band is that even your heroes are just people.
Yeah.
And you'd be amazed at how many of those people are just professional, nice guys, whatever. They just get on with shit. I think one of the nicest guys. They say don't meet your idols. Always meet Napalm Death.
Yeah.
Barney and Shane, and they're just the epitome of the guys.
Yeah, as you said, like never meet your heroes. I don't know anyone. Well, I don't know of anyone worth their salt really who's met their hero and said, "Oh, that person's a complete cunt."
I've met a couple of people.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name any names.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not asking.
But I've met a couple of people.
Oh, that's a shame. But yeah, I think you do get a lot of. Yeah, I think it's down to you've got like a middle point. You've got some people who are douchebags, some people are just nice. But I think everyone I've met so far has been the sweetest person. It's like that's the thing that people get so surprised about between your stage persona and your off-stage persona, which is a lot of the time you've got the singer goes on stage like, "Oh yeah, I want you all to go to a circle pit and kick the dog," and all that shit comes off,
and then it's like,
off stage, "Oh hi,
oh hi, yeah, this next song is called, yeah, exactly.
Hello, my name's Colin."
I see. I used to live in Wales, and it's like our old singer's like, "All right, this next song is called Umbeth Plague." Oh, a bit
That's
more
actually
brummy.
a great accent, by the way.
That was a bit more brummy, to be honest. All right, boys, and it's what was it, Bill Bailey that takes the piss out of that?
I think so.
The
I'm sure he does.
West Country death metal, and he's like, "Hello, we are the darlings of Beelzebub." It's. I think there's a beautiful kind of parody sense in that, and it's almost satirical that it's these mild-mannered people who are creating cacophonous music. It's like a catharsis from the rest of the day where it's kind of banal, and the UK is relatively a miserable place to live. Not necessarily. It's more of a first world kind of problem, but it's kind of a boring kind of wet kind of place to live. But it's created some of the greatest heavy music out of it.
Because that's the thing, though. Music is such a cathartic thing, and it reflects with people who generally aren't not necessarily unhappy. Because I'm making it sound really bloody depressing, but need not distraction, just something to take their minds off things. And
Absolutely.
I think music is one of the very few things that is capable of doing that for a prolonged period of time, and you can do that quite often.
It's why a lot of British material, media in general, is very very self-deprecating. It takes a point. I mean, maybe the British humour is kind of just taking yourself and looking at yourself as the joke rather than pointing it at someone else. And I think that there's a beauty in that, and it's why a lot of Napalm Death kind of stuff is about internal choice and internal kind of thoughts and what you can do to change rather than the other way around, what other people can do to change you.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why it's such an inspiration to me, because it, instead of going around and saying, well, you need to do this, and and it's society, and it's this, and I think, well, what can I do to change society? What can I do to change and be better to people around me?
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. I think now you see, you say that. I've actually thought about this quite recently myself, because I'm very much someone who thinks about, oh, why have I done wrong? What have I done to do this? Oh, did I upset someone? So I think you do need to find a middle point of where you realise, okay, I've done something wrong, I need to change this, and then also identifying that, oh, actually, no, that person's the arsehole, not me.
Hmm. I
I
think,
think,
yeah,
yeah,
there is personal acceptance as well. You have to realize that sometimes, if you are quite self-deprecating, it doesn't always have to mean that you're the one that's in the wrong.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like we were saying earlier on about people's mental state, and it's just not generally mental health, but just just general mental state and how you understand things, how you process things. There's there's people that can treat you like absolute crap, and you feel like, oh, it's me, it must be me.
Hmm.
And yeah, again, it comes down to the environment that you're in. You could be
That,
the loveliest, sweetest person in the world, and you could be absolutely awesome. You could be the next Lemmy Kilmister. However, you're around people who think you're a piece of shit constantly. I mean, speaking of Lemmy Kilmister, the guy's a sex god.
it's the shorts.
It must be the shorts. But
Must
you
be
think
shorts.
about it, like, he wasn't. But he's not your standard definition of a good-looking bloke.
Hmm. It's
Now,
attitude.
it's confident. I think confidence is such an important thing. Like, imagine if he was in that kind of situation where environment where all he's being told, you're disgusting, you're horrible, you're this. Eventually, you're going to believe that, unless
Yeah.
you're one of very few individuals that has the willpower to be like, no, I know I'm not. Fuck
Hmm.
you.
I mean, for me, I don't have that kind of confidence myself. The long hair helps.
Oh,
But
aren't you bloody lucky?
uh, hang
I can
on,
grow. I can grow a beard. I'm happy with that. I can live with that at least.
but it's one of those things that it's attitude that makes all the difference. There are a lot of very good looking guys that can't find women, and all men, or whatever their preference is. But I think that it's very much an attitude thing, because overconfidence is the least attractive thing.
Oh yeah. I think
Yeah.
I think Dee Snyder said that very well. He said, out of his own experiences, he would be the Twisted Sister on stage, and he would take
Mm.
it off stage. And he's said years later, like, that's not how you should be. That's
No.
the shittest things you could possibly do. Because once you're off stage, you're just a person like that person coming up to you for an autograph. You give them that fucking autograph because they're just coming to see you. You should be fucking pleased that they're coming to see you.
The fact is, I've been the kid asking for the autograph. I know that autograph, it's only a, what, 5-second job. And do you
Yeah.
know what? That'll make that kid's night,
Oh, of
because
course it
it
will.
made my night. My all-time favorite band is Dream Theater, and which, again, I'm a punk that listens to death metal. Not really what anyone expects, but um, you know, for me, Dream Theater are my all-time favorite bands, big inspiration, and I met them all back in 2007, I think it was, and
Oh, so
yeah,
that was the Mike Portnoy days as well.
oh yeah, yeah. Oh, Mike was absolutely lovely. He threw it because I was on the balcony. It was me and my dad. My dad was a massive Dream Theater fan. Well, he still is. And he threw a drumstick during like the encore, and it hit my hand and bounced off the balcony. And I told him that later on, and he went to go and find the stick for me.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's so
And he said,
lovely.
oh, "Sorry, someone must have taken it, and all the rest of my sticks are packed away." Like, oh, I was like, but I've still got me ticket signed by him, and I think back that was like what 13 years ago now, and I just think, God, that he didn't have to do that.
No, not at all. But it's it just shows that people like that stay around because people
Exactly.
want to see them again. Yeah, I mean, as you said, your favourite band's Dream Theater. I went through a phase where one of my favourite bands was Firewind. I love
Okay,
Gus
yeah,
G.
Just she,
Absolutely,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely love Gus G. As for people who can't see that, I've got like a hot rod on my arm because I'm a shit guitarist. I think if I look like my favourite guitarist, maybe, just maybe, I might be a bit mediocre. But no, I remember I went to Sonosphere and I caught a Gus G Plectrum. I've still got it on my desk. I've still got that thing sitting there staring at me. Like, this is fantastic. I loved it. And as you said, it can mean so much. 2 minutes of your time for that person can mean the world to this person. And
100%.
I think that's something that a lot of people like to forget. I think a lot of musicians like to forget that it's like, and like you've got the meet and greets things. Oh, I don't want to do meet and greets. So yeah, one, that's how they make money too. That they mean so much to these people. I
They
mean,
do.
whether you charge for it, or, what your views are on meet and greets whatsoever. That's if someone's happy to pay for it, fine. If they want to pay for that, it's great. If you one of those people that doesn't want to charge people to do that, also fine. It's completely down to what your personal preference is and that of your audience.
Exactly. I think it's exploitative, but at the same time, we're in an era where music isn't paying the bills, and I think that those kind of things, although they are exploitative, I think there should be a humble kind of side of it. Um, one of my idols. I'm not going to slag him off, but is it Doyle from the
Oh
Misfits?
yes, because that was going around quite a bit. How much he hates doing it.
He hates doing it, not because he was paying for it, but because he hates doing it.
Yeah,
Wasn't about the money, and thinking the only reason he's doing it is because he's getting paid a lot of money to do it. And I think that's I don't maybe it's just because I'm not someone with decades long career like he has. I'm just I'm a nobody that if someone comes up to me and says, "Oh, I bought your album, I really loved it," it means the world to me. I suppose when you've sold millions and millions of albums, it doesn't quite have the same ring to it. But for me, we've sold a few thousands. That it means a
yeah,
huge difference to me.
of course. Um, I mean, all that these musicians are doing is the same as what movie stars do. Movie stars have been doing it for decades, and no one gives them shit for it.
Mm.
And I think Comic Con in London, sorry, the MCM Expo, because I know I'm going to get a lot of shit for that. It's Comic Con. We all know it's Comic Con. We just gave it a different name because we don't want to sound American. But you got something like, oh, take a picture and get a signature from Danny DeVito. That's 150 quid. It's like, I love Danny DeVito. He's one of the funniest blokes in the world. But I'm not paying 150 quid to get a picture signed by him, which
Yeah,
a lot of musicians will just simply do for free.
I can for people like Danny DeVito where they have regular incomes and they're
It's
still even
quite
at
a
this point
lot.
it's
Like,
still quite a lot of money. The ones that I respect are the ones going back to Star Wars, the ones that do the Star Wars convention. And believe me, Star Wars fans will meet everyone.
oh, and they
You
will
know,
pay for it as well. They would if you.
third stormtrooper from the left on Empire Strikes Back at 3 minutes 33. And he'll be there, and that'll be his only income because people will pay, and I think that's beautiful. You know, uh, can I take a 2 minute break?
Yeah, that's cool, dude.
Just want to nip to the
I'll just
toilet.
pause it back, and we're back after toilet break. I'm just going to cut this. Yeah, as you were saying about the stormtroopers, and that's perfectly fine. If you're someone who doesn't earn a lot of money, that is your income. That's perfectly fine. I think it's a lot more exploitative if you're someone who, like, he sneezes, he or she just sneezes and already makes like $2 million from literally nothing. Which that's when I think meet and greets do take the mick a little bit. Like, you've got someone like Keanu Reeves. He could so easily charge you an arm and a leg. He'll just come and hang out with you. He's like, oh hi, yeah, I'm Keanu Reeves. Like, fuck.
I love that though. I love that kind of down to earth nature, even when you have that celebrity status. You know, I understand that there are a lot of people who are, you know, above celebrity kind of thing. You know, your mega stars, the people like, I don't know, Tom Cruise, for example. First name that popped into my head. These people that wouldn't be able to walk the streets without
Yeah.
being hounded and all this kind of stuff. But there's the step below where you can kind of think, well, these people are still celebrities. They're still major people, and a lot of people do want to meet them, but they're still down to earth. You
Now,
know.
I think generally people have more respect for that kind of person than the gross megastar who, oh, I've got so many problems. Oh yeah, you've got so many problems in your $50 million mansion in LA where no one's going to come to you, and you've got like 100 megabyte per second Wi-Fi. You
Yeah.
poor creature.
Well, yeah, exactly. You know, I think that there's a point where some people have never known any different. You know, they've been successful from a very early age.
Justin Bieber.
Well, Bieber had the best luck when it came to it. You know, and he 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 basically used. He was one of the first people to use YouTube
Mm.
as like a springboard. YouTube and MySpace. You know, and I can't begrudge him for that. He
No.
found the right ears, and as a result of that, he became who he was at a certain time in his life, and it set him for life. You
Yeah, I
know,
mean,
I think,
I think he got a lot of shit for it. A lot of shit for someone at that age. I don't think I could have taken it. I think a lot of people would have broken down and just couldn't do it. And
yeah,
yeah, he has done some questionable things. Of course he has. However, he could be way more damaged. I think a lot more people would be way more damaged than how he was set. But I think at this point in time, I think he's relatively well adjusted.
yeah. Well, look at Corey Feldman, for example.
Mm.
You know, I think that he was deeply affected. Him and Corey Haim, how deeply affected they were from their child celebrity status, and that is something that needs to be looked into in a sense of Hollywood and what it'll let certain people get away with because of the
Yeah.
amount of money they earn.
And I think that is definitely becoming a very big topic of discussion at the moment, which good. It's good that it's happening. I think one of
That's
the only child celebrities that I know or see, of course, because I don't personally know them. If I was, I wouldn't work a day job. But yeah, I think the one person I can think of on the top of my head who's always seems very well adjusted is Neil Patrick Harris.
yeah, yeah. I
But
mean, he started his career at a very early age, but then seemed to continue it, you know, very well. And in fact, tell you, speaking of someone who's on the other side of that, um, I cannot remember his name.
what film?
You know How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah.
The
Oh,
lead actor Ted. What the hell's his name?
oh, I can't remember. I could tell you Steven Seagal. Is it Steven Seagal?
No,
Oh,
it's
Stephen. I think it's Stephen.
it's Jason Segel.
Jason, that's it.
No, it's the other guy. It's Ted. And if you can find it, Josh Radner. Josh Radner. There's a great like TED talk that he did in India about the price of fame and the effect it had on his personality and his confidence and how it affects his anxiety anymore. And it's an extremely powerful TED talk. I think I've watched it so many times, and it kind of goes on like how reading his comments, reading his criticisms came back at him and kind of made him worse. And there was an incident that happened where um, he was caught driving under the influence of alcohol, just under. So he was fine, he was legal, and he said, "What would have happened had I had another drink and then driven?" That would have been public news, and the effect it would have had on not just his life, but the life of the people looked up to him.
Yeah.
Instead of kind of giving him more depression, it made him feel like, I need to do better as a person. I need to improve. And I thought that was quite inspiring, the way that he did it. He made that mistake, and he kind of got a lucky break in a sense.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite a good thing. If you get an opportunity, I would watch that.
I definitely will. Steering back to Repulsive Vision. we will talk about other things as well, but that's what you're here for. So, the song "Premature Burial," I had a little because I've listened to your music and watched the music videos before I talked to you. Because, yeah, what's the point of interviewing if I don't know anything about you? So, I did get a very Hammer feel for that music video, especially at the very beginning with when it's like in the crypt. I think it's like a crypt or like a very hidden away section. Someone's being put into a casket of sorts. I thought that looks really Hammer, and I really like that. I really like how Hammer films that look. Is that the feel that you guys were going for?
I think we were going more for a Fulci kind of vibe with the reds and greens and all this kind of stuff, but there's certainly Hammer style cheese in that. I think we wanted it to be relatively serious, but also with an 80s kind of tinge of kind of like over the top kind of thing. That was a lucky break for us, really, being able to make a video like that. We wanted to kind of have, because the song itself, the whole point, as I said, with the album Look Past the Gore and See the Art, we wanted to kind of take everything in a metaphorical sense, because a lot of the songs are very stereotypical death metal.
Yeah.
But the actual subject matters were different. We weren't talking about actually burying someone. The lyrics in Premature Burial discuss more about how we are kind of trapped in like kind of cases of our own kind of choices and our own boundaries, and that's the whole point. How can I put it? It's very difficult to kind of, because I can't remember the lyrics off the top of my head. But Artificial Souls was one of the things that kind of jumps to mind out of that. It's the whole idea of the video itself was our singer's burying himself. He was kind of burying his old feelings and leaving that to be locked inside. And we wanted to try and focus more on philosophical kind of ideas, and we wanted to kind of progress that as well with the next album. But Premature Burial, we definitely wanted to have that old school 80s horror vibe.
And that definitely came across. There's one part, well, not one part, but there's like a certain kind of view. I think it's when he drags a shovel around, where it starts going a bit black and white. I think I can't remember if it went black or white or not, but there's a part there that I looked at and just thought, do you know what this reminds me of? That reminds me of the laundry detergent advert that Rob Zombie did a few years ago. So I don't know whether you're going to find that offensive or take that. I thought I have to say it. I have to say this.
I mean, I think the tracking was more of an idea of the guy that was directing. Oh, sorry, should we say the last that was directing it? And she wanted to kind of have it as though it was like a 4th, 5th generation tape.
Okay.
So like with a lot of the video nasties, a lot of people, because they were banned, would like kind of circulate them on a sort of black market kind of thing, and quite a lot of these tapes were like terrible quality, and they were kind of crap. So that's where a lot of the shifting and the black and white and all that kind of stuff came about. But I've not seen that Rob Zombie thing. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, it came out a few years ago, and it's very well done because it just looks like a horror film. And then it's like, because you've got this guy, he's dragging I think he's dragging an axe or something. It's just like something like out of Silent Hill or Resident Evil. Just got this
Oh
guy
yeah.
dragging this big thing, and he's got like a bag over his head. It's just a big, huge butcher-looking guy. Like, oh fuck, what's going on? And then he just goes to his little pot out in the middle of the field. And you just see him. He's just doing his washing or something.
Oh man, we have to find that.
It's fantastic. Again, Rob Zombie, absolutely fantastic at what he does. Yeah, probably wouldn't be here without Alice Cooper.
Mm.
Because, yeah, Alice Cooper's just the. Like Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie, Murder Dolls, all these bands have their
Mm.
origins going back to Alice Cooper, which is just mental when you think about it. And I love going back on all this history. Um, yeah, on speaking more of your band rather than others, the newest record that you're releasing has a few guest vocalists,
Yep.
and you've got Phil Hall from Municipal Municipal Waste, and
Yep.
Max Otro from Merciless, and a few others, I believe.
No, we got one
No,
other.
okay,
We got a look. We had a few feelers out for other people. I won't say, but because we might get them for the next album. But yeah, the other one is a local musician. He plays in a local, it's kind of melodic metal kind of thing, a bit more like In Flames, but more modern In Flames kind of stuff.
yeah,
Golden Carnage. It's a guy called Alex Cooksey. He basically, I wanted to, with the guest vocalists, it was something of an afterthought. You know, we had the album kind of sorted, and while we were recording the guitars and stuff, I thought, you know what, we could really do with having some cool vocalists on here, you know, and so Alex was one of the first people I mentioned because I wanted to have a local connection.
hmm.
I wanted to support because, you know, although I don't believe mutual support is essential, I think that it's really great to support those who support you, and he's always been front row at every local gig, and I thought, you know what, he's got a great voice, and he did a great job on, I think he did Nepotism, Social Chameleon. Merciless, Max has been a friend of mine for a few years. Max, well, Merciless was the first death metal CD I ever bought. Just randomly bought it in a second-hand CD shop for about £3, and you know, I didn't quite get it at first, but it became something of one of my favourites. Which to have Max working on my album is unbelievable for me, and of course, Municipal Waste. I mean, you know, they're some of my idols. You know, when it comes to thrash and all this, Municipal Waste and Iron Reagan and everything is
That
unbelievable for me.
like that's the thing. Like the second I saw the film there, I was like, I got an immediate flashback of being in school, and one of my mates from school, Matt, is coming up to us like, dude, you need, because he was the kid that would always buy like all the newest metal records and stuff. So, dude, you need to listen to this. And I think he even got like the special edition pack with like the patch and all this other stuff. I'm just remembering this now, and yeah, you need to listen to them. I'm like, oh, fucking cool, yeah. I think this was like 2008.
Oh, that'll be Massive Aggressive, big
It
like
was.
kind of green and purple box set.
Yes, I think it was. Let me double check that. Let me Google that because I don't want to get it wrong because I feel massive aggressive. No, that's a what? Bauhaus. The fuck? No, that's not what I want. Yeah, it was massive aggressive.
Yeah.
I thought like that's so cool.
I mean, I remember getting Hazardous Mutation. Oh god, it must have been shit about 2004, 2005, maybe. I can't remember what year it was, but you know, being a very impressionable 16-year-old, I'm like, this is the best thing ever. And they became one of my favorite bands of all time, and just being able to share the stage with any of those guys was cool. You know, I mean, it all started. We got a gig with Cannabis Corpse, Landfill's
Nice.
death metal band, and that was in Manchester. And you know, like Phil stood front center, and I'm like, oh God, we're gonna suck ass, you know. And he was really really cool about it, really complimentary. It was just massive. And then we played a festival in Portugal last August, and Ian Reagan were on the bill. So again, we got to hang out with Phil again and had a good chat and everything was cool. And then, once we'd done most of the vocals, we said, well, should we get Phil in to do some vocals? Sent him a message, and he said, no problem at all. He was a fan of what we were doing, and and he just nailed it in about half an hour. He just kind of belted it out, and strangely enough, that single is coming out next Friday.
Woo! Oh, that would be. Shit,
Regret.
When's this one coming out? So I've got. That one's coming out then. Yeah, it'll be about. This one's coming out on the 29th.
Oh, okay, so it's already been out then.
Yeah, it's already out. Yay! Let's pretend it's fantastic. Let's do some roleplay.
Yeah. So yeah, that massive flop that happened and all those bad reviews. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because you guys are opening for Metallica next week, aren't you? Fantastic.
Yeah, well, James is just a pal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he
No.
made us a table.
He is the table. No. Well, we've got another single coming out in mid-August as well. So that's Other Than Divine. I think I sent you both songs.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So fingers crossed that it'll all go positively.
You'll be fine. You'll do fine. It'll be great. We'll see. We'll see when we actually do get to play gigs again.
Oh,
there's this thing that's happened. I think everyone's losing their hair or something. I know I'm affected by it. You're still good. You've clearly been inside long enough, so you still got your hair.
Oh, believe me, yeah, this isn't going anywhere. Well, yeah, I'm in my 30s now. It's going to go soon. Yeah,
Yeah,
but no,
there's nothing else noteworthy happening at the moment. It's just this weird thing about hair loss at the moment.
yeah, everyone kind of getting bored with it and shaving it all off and everything. Yeah, no, I don't think I could get bored with it.
I've tried to grow my hair during this, and I realised I've got the front splits.
Oh,
And
right.
then I've also got the little bowl cut at the back as well. So everything else grows perfectly fine. Anywhere between that is fine, but now I've got this weird split. It thins out at the top a bit. It just gets a bit weird. So I was just like, nah, fuck it. I look all right bald. I can grow a beard. I'm happy.
Yeah,
I'll just stop
exactly.
it, and I don't have the money to do a hair transplant. I don't think
Oh
I'm.
God, yeah.
That's the
£8,000,
thing.
isn't it?
I debate whether I'm vain enough. If that's the thing, I don't have the money, so I can't be vain enough. But I always think, as like a little exercise, if I had the money, would I do it? And I'll be honest, I don't know if I would. If I would, fine, I'd be openly admitting to it. Like, yeah, fine, I've done it. What, you want me to keep it secret? No, I'm not. I've got loads of hair now. This is great. Yeah, but you're natural blonde. Why do you have black strips? Oh.
I don't know. I think I'd have to decide if I actually lost it. To be honest, I think it would go through my mind. The thought would definitely go through my mind. But then again, I'm very privileged at the fact that I've still got mine.
Yeah, I mean, I can see. I mean, from the quality of the camera, I think your hair looks actually pretty good. It's very shiny. It looks very healthy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as I said, I did wash specially.
Now, the question I did have for you. Now, this is the only one that I've got on here that isn't actually band related. What
Okay.
is the best movie franchise in your opinion?
Oh Christ. Oh.
It's not
Best.
music related, so it's fine. You're allowed to comment.
Jesus, that's a tough one. That. If I'm gonna jump out with one of them, I'm just gonna say the Evil Dead franchise.
Ooh, Long Live the King.
Well, just and we're not talking remakes here, are we?
If you prefer the remakes, that's completely up to you.
We're definitely not talking remakes because remakes are terrible. But Evil Dead 2, which is arguably better than the first one, Army of Darkness, and then Ash versus Evil Dead. It's great.
It's so
You know,
gory. Like the series is so gory.
but it's tongue in cheek at the same time. It's amazing how you can make it so funny. One of my favorite things ever is watching Evil Dead 2 with someone that's never seen it before. So you're all drinking, you're having a good time, and just wait for the moments, like when the demon's got its head caught in the trap, like the kind of trap door kind of thing, and he stands on it, and the eye goes out into that lass's throat. And it's just waiting for the moment that they spit their drink out, as it's just so unexpected. If we're talking horror films, I would probably say Nightmare on Elm Street or Return of the Living Dead. But I think that the franchises took a severe dip after the first one.
It's gotten very. Trying to think because I'm thinking of something like Friday the 13th, and I'm thinking of like Space Jason. Like it seems like such a cool. The thing is, I really like it. I really like Space Jason. It's like, yeah, he'll always be there. He'll always be around to kill teenagers thousands of years into the future.
I love Jason X. I don't know why people hate it so much. I mean, did anyone at any point watch any of the Jason films and think this is really serious?
That's
I
the
mean,
thing, though. Most horror films aren't serious, especially when you've got an antagonist like Friday the 13th, and yeah, like you've got Jason, you've got not. I was going to say Jason Voorhees, but the same character. Um,
Freddy.
yeah, you've got Freddy Krueger, which yeah, like if you think of that situation, fuck, it's like you can't sleep or you'll die, and
Mm,
you'll die in a horrible way. It's like that's fantastic, that's horrifying. But then there's all these aspects of comedy in there as well, whereas like it's both horrible and funny at the same time, where you've got someone who's so unhinged that they're creating this humor around them, where it's like, look at how I'm killing you, which all in all, when you think about it, is absolutely gruesome. But it's like, I don't know how to feel about this, but again, precognitive conditioning, we made
mm,
think like that's funny.
yeah, I think it's irony. There's a sense of irony in it. It's kind of not in a sense that I'm enjoying this part, but Clockwork Orange, for example, the infamous scene where he's singing in the rain. You know, the horrific nature of like when they're murdering this woman, they're assaulting this woman. It's horrible, but he's singing in the rain while he's doing it and dancing, and it's this hint of irony where your brain doesn't know quite how to process that you're seeing horrendous things, but it's done in an ironic way. It's kind of like why the Toxic Avenger works.
Yeah.
It someone getting murdered by having an ice cream being made on his head. It's utterly ridiculous.
But then,
You know,
yeah, as you said, it's quite a polarizing thing. Like, on one hand, you've got something very horrific happening, and on the other hand, you've got something quite funny. Actually, this is a scene that comes to mind, which is the Reservoir Dogs one, the torture scene in Reservoir Dogs.
oh yeah, stuck in the middle with you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is like you're either going to be horrified or you're going to laugh. These are
mm.
the only two reactions you're going to have there. Anything in between, that's where it gets a bit weird, I think. But
I think with that you don't know how to react, and I think that's the beauty of it. It's not on the nose like a scary movie kind of thing where I don't know, I'm trying to think of something else that's also like any of the scary movie franchise. It's all on the nose, and it's like, oh look, there's the punchline, there's the punchline. You know this, and
it's
there's the punchline.
it's because it's so obvious and just so over the top. I think it's almost slapstick.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
I think it's just taking something to such an extreme that it's something else.
Exactly. It like Bottom's a very good example of this. Extreme violence, but you know that all of it's kind of tongue in cheek.
Yeah, that's what makes art so amazing and incredible.
Yeah.
Because it just plays with the senses, which is just so clever. Like I view it as just something that's so smart and clever.
It's open to interpretation, and that's the important part about it, is that you can you can watch something and the next person can watch it with their experiences and their thought process and see it in a different way. This is why niche music like what we listen to will never be huge. You know, I don't think there's any way that metal will ever be in the stratosphere like it was in the new metal era, because it's just so diverse. If you
Yeah.
talk to a metal fan, any metal fan, they will have a completely different taste to you.
Oh yeah.
And I
But
think
that you've got a whole culture surrounded by that music.
yeah,
It's a unique culture that you don't have in other genres of music. The closest you have is electronic music, but that's very different, and it's
I was
not
going to say
quite.
jazz.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd agree with that. I've not thought of that, but that's a very good point, actually. I think a lot of these. Yeah, I think metal has the biggest grouping for a music genre. I think.
In terms of diversification, it's unbelievable how different. You know, you can have everything from Bullet My Valentine all the way up to Morbid Angel, you know,
Yeah,
and everything in between. Sono to Napalm Death.
Venom to Killswitch Engage.
Good,
I
yeah,
mean
good example.
that's. Oh god. I mean, I like both bands, but I can't
Yeah.
imagine going from black metal and Countess Bathory to the end of Heartache and My Last Serenade.
Yeah. But I love that. I love that. That's the reason why metal's such a big thing. You know, we used to joke when we were kids, like, "Oh yeah, we listen to all types of music. We listen to all types of metal." You know, it's unreal how you can have something like Anathema and Obituary in the same genre, and I think that's, you know, there's so much to be said for that. And you know, we could say the same thing with horror, for example. You know,
Mm.
you've got absolutely horrendous films. Like, I'm trying to think, like Cannibal Holocaust that I've said before, but is it called Funny Games? It's a home invasion film. And you've got that, or The Strangers, and then you've got, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street,
Yeah.
or Evil Dead 2, or Deathgasm, or, you
Uh,
know,
would The Purge be technical? Is The Purge a horror film? I'd say there's probably hints of it, but it's probably more of an action movie more than
it's a
anything.
weird one because I would consider that to be a horror film.
I'd say it probably falls under a few categories. I'd probably
Science
say
fiction.
it's, but where's the science in that? That's what I'm thinking. Well, no, you're right. It could be, yeah, it could be sci-fi. No, you're right with that. I'm getting it mixed up with like Star Wars isn't sci-fi; it's fantasy.
Mm. It's a strange one, really. I mean, I think with horror in general, and there's not many other genres like this. If a comedy's bad, it's really bad. You know, if a romantic film is bad, it's really bad. With a horror, if it's bad, it can also be good, and I think that's really cool. You know, you can watch something like Troll 2, and it's amazing.
Isn't that the one with Jennifer Aniston in it? I'm
No,
thinking the
that's
first one.
Leprechaun.
Ah, but you say that about like romantic films. Have you ever
Hmm.
seen The Room?
Why, Lisa? Why?
Why? It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I
Oh,
did
hi,
not.
Larry. When we were on tour in America, and we went to just I think it's just around the Fisherman's Wharf kind of area in San Francisco. And there's a huge poster of The Room, and it's just above the cafe where they have the "So how's your sex life?"
That is incredible, and I love
So
everything about
we
that.
went to that cafe, like, oh my god! It's not a cafe; it's like a pizza shop in now. But
But that's so incredible. Like, have you watched the like document? Not quite documentary, like the docu film of was it The Disaster Artist?
Disaster Artist, yeah, I've got that one as well.
It's so good. And that's the thing though. Like I've watched that, and I thought the production's better. You've got all these incredible actors in this. I'm thinking like, yeah, but the original is still better.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's such an amazing film, and I love that kind of. There's a kind of what's the film?
It's almost
Rocky
like
Horror
a
Picture
cult
Show
follow.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's got a cult following.
Yeah, like where people like turn up with spoons because like there's a picture frame with a spoon in it.
Yes, yes, I've read that after I watched Disaster Artist because I kept seeing that right at the end. I'm like, why? Everyone keeps telling me about spoons. Why are the spoons so important? And I read like, that's incredible. I've never noticed this. That's amazing.
And to this point, even though it's a terrible film, it's still incredibly influential. And that's amazing. It's like, well, again, Captain Beefheart I mentioned earlier on. Is it Trout replica, Trout Mask replica? It's a terrible album in terms of like melody and playability. But then you look back at the history of it, and he purposefully wrote it so it was out of tune, out of time, and bad, and then spent 2 years making sure that these top class session musicians could play it out of time. I mean, I think
Yes,
that's phenomenal.
I kept think you've mentioned Captain Beefheart a few times. I kept thinking like I recognise the name. Isn't that the guy from The Damned? And then I'm like, no, I recognise the name now because I've actually got a Frank Zappa biography that I read at the beginning of the year. I remember there's like
Hmm.
loads of parts where he's like, yeah, yeah, I've worked with Captain Beefheart. I'm like, that's it. That's who I've. That's where I fucking heard that name. So it's just
Yeah,
clicked, and it's
you're thinking
almost
Captain Sensible.
yes, I am. I'm like, fuck.
I mean, just I didn't know about this until like about I was watching a video on YouTube about the history of it. Like, wow, that's unbelievable. You know, the world of music, and even though now everyone keeps saying, there's nothing new. Just because it's not new doesn't mean it's not new to you.
Oh, there's there's a difference to that you've not noticed. It doesn't have to be the newest, most innovative thing. I mean, I've gone off of metal for a bit because people kept saying like, "Oh, every metal song's the same," blah blah. And for a while, I believed that. I definitely did, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm just not gonna do music. Well, fuck it." And then after a while, I was like, "Yeah, but there's these subtle differences that make it all these changes. It's like why wouldn't you?" And yeah, that's sort of how I've gone back onto that myself and thought, no, it doesn't need to be the newest thing. You don't need the newest, best genre, etc., etc. Someone might take a spin of an old genre and bring up like dubstep. Dubstep's been a thing for years, way before. Was it like 2012? No, 2010, 2012 is when it's
When
had its like
Skrillex
peak.
was the big thing, yeah,
It was a genre in the 90s. It's just a slight change to two step. But what's happened is the technology changed.
yeah,
Mean you could do this and this. Like, okay, great. You didn't create a new genre. You've had new sounds. You've had all this different stuff. Same with yeah, with metal. I think that's where I think you've had this big boost. You had all this particular production back in the 80s, 70s. It didn't really change much. There was slight different change. Then you suddenly had the Ross Robinson production, the new metal production, which is like so balanced. You've got so much bass, but you can still hear everything. It's like,
yeah.
fuck, that's amazing. That's incredible. And it could be subtle things like that. Even something silly like, well, I say silly, like a guitar tone. Look at a band like Ghost. They're not the most innovative thing in the world. They look like a black metal band, but they sound like the Doors, but they write hard rock songs.
Yeah,
Which, like, that is great. That's a fantastic combination. It's not the newest, most incredible thing in the world. It still blasts you away, and
it's.
still, yeah,
I mean, it's Blue Oyster Cult for the 21st century.
yeah. That's actually also quite good. Like the reason I say the Doors as well is because this fuck I've got his name now. Thomas? No,
I'm not Tobias.
Tobias. That's it. I'm thinking of the keyboardist from Nightwish. Um, like he was always saying like, oh, I'm a big fan of the Doors. You listen to Ghost after that, and I'm hearing a lot of Doors in this. Fuck. But no, Blue Oyster Cult is also one that I didn't think of, and I can hear that.
See, I don't like Ghost myself. I mean, no disrespect to anyone that does. I tried. It just wasn't for me, I think. But then again, there's a lot of bands on my kind of side that I'd get shit for listening to. I'm trying to think of particular ideas. I mean, Trivium have been a bit more respected nowadays, but back in the day, I was a fan of them, and
Yeah.
I think that looking at what they were doing, and he was like 18, 19 at the time he was
Yeah, and it's
writing that.
absolutely fucking brilliant. I mean, again, actually speaking of Trivium, I was watching a live stream yesterday. Absolutely brilliant, absolutely fantastic. No band in the world's doing that at the moment. Only Trivium, and so that's fantastic. You can't knock them for it. There's a few comments that I got for that. Like, oh, they're really mediocre and shit. Like, I don't really give a fuck because one, I'm enjoying it. Secondly, uh, one, you're not. Then that was another musician, as we were talking about earlier on.
Mm.
Uh, so, well, they're making a living from this. There's enough people that want to see them. So, mediocre or not, uh, yeah, they're doing fantastic and good on them.
And can I just say that they are also relatively down to earth as well?
Oh yeah, Matt Heffy. Because I've been watching a lot of their Twitch streams lately, both Paolo and Matt, and they've even responded to me on like certain bits. As you said, were saying earlier on about autographs, even something as small as that. It's like, oh,
Mm.
no, that's great, that's fantastic. I feel like a little kid.
I mean, one of the things that springs to mind is you've heard of Conjurer,
Yeah,
right? See, Conjurer, I played with several times, opening gigs. Oh God, we're talking less than 5 years ago, I'd say. Tiny, tiny little band. They played one of my gigs, and at the time everyone kind of had this kind of thing about them. But Matt Heafy discovered them to an extent. I think that he heard one of their songs, and I think that that's what helped them. And from then on, if you notice, Trivium are wearing Conjurer merch in pretty
no,
much every photo shoot now. And I think that that's really cool that they're reaching down for bands who are talented like Conjurer. And I think that them. I never really got Venom Prison. No disrespect to them, they're doing great
yeah.
in what they do. I want to like them, but for some reason there's just some kind of there's some great riffs, but I don't quite connect with them. Maybe there's something I'm missing.
But that's something that, sorry to interrupt you. That's something that I really appreciate on the wording that you're using as well for what you're saying, because we were discussing this earlier on before the podcast. Um, it's it's great that you're actually saying that it's not reflecting with you. You're not connecting with it, and that's fine. No, that's not a negative thing in any capacity.
Mm.
That's not you belittling them, berating them in any capacity whatsoever.
Mm.
That's what music is. It is something that is subjective, where a
Absolutely.
lot of people in your position would say that band's shit. Why are they shit? So, like, they're bigger than you. You just don't like them. That doesn't mean they're shit. And yeah, sorry, I just felt like that's something really important to point out, which I feel like, yeah, I think that's something very nice to see and hear, rather than having someone, just berate it. You're simply
Oh yeah,
saying that, yeah, you're giving a fair and non-negative um, opinion on what your thoughts are on it. Which, yeah, I'll stop ranting now because I feel like I'm losing the plot.
no, it's neutral but slightly out. It's kind of because my point was is that Conjure and Venom Prism are probably two of the extreme metal bands that have proven that the UK can, propel bands to this level. I mean, obviously, there's bands who are on the lower side who are starting to get bigger, Live Burial, Cryptic Shift, Scumpulse, Scordatura, Devastator have just sold out every copy of their CD on the first day, which, amazing. Just it proves that when people say, "Oh, metal's dead,"
It's not.
how can it be? How can it be? Just because it's not, at the top, alongside all the pop stars and all that kind of stuff. And hip hop is kind of, you know, dominating the music scene. I can completely understand that. It can be very easily made with a laptop, an artist who can create their beats and create all that kind of stuff with the minimal of equipment. No 13 years in an expensive studio with all the best session musicians getting paid obscene amounts with huge amounts of cocaine at the top, like Mr. Rose. But I can understand why hip hop is doing that, because they're creating music at a higher rate, usually with a better recording quality because of the um, the advancement of technology.
The low
Since
production
then,
cost. On a business
exactly.
side, if you're someone who wants to make money out of music, if that's your sole goal, yeah,
Hmm.
you'd go to hip hop because it costs so much less and you're getting more from it.
Absolutely, 100%. That to me is one of the reasons why hip hop is succeeding so well. Is because with metal, I mean, even touring, you need half the entourage. I just, it's something that we need to look at in terms of what we think about. I mean, now major labels aren't really focusing on metal unless it's a dead cert. It's something
Like
that.
Lamb of God as an example, because
Perfect.
they're on a major label. I think they're with Warner Brothers still, aren't they?
I think so. Yeah.
It's Warner Brothers or Road, but it's one of the quite large labels still, and
Yeah.
they're yeah you they I think someone said once that they fill out space that Pantera left behind, which I think it does to a certain degree.
I think if you
And
mix Pantera and Testament, you'd have Lamb of God.
yeah, yeah, I think that's actually a really good comparison there. But what were we saying? Oh yes, about like yeah, a lot of bands are making a lot of changes to their live rig, especially guitarists. Because I'm, as an example, I'm mainly a vocalist. I write a lot of stuff in my band, guitar wise, etc., etc. Live, I wasn't playing guitar at all. Now, on this new album that we're recording at the moment, it looks like a lot of the songs I can play and sing at the same time because I think it looks cool. And since lockdowns happened, I've gotten better at guitar, and I'm like, oh, I want to play more guitar. I want to do some of this shit live. And all I'm using is, well, all I'm thinking of using at the moment is I'm waiting to get a solar guitar, which just needs to be chucked to the music shop with an Evertune bridge. So it's like, okay, out of the bag, done, no tuning, fuck it. And a Line 6 Helix. I've got all my tones on my Helix. I can literally just plug it into the amp, done. That's two pieces of equipment. Microphone, if I want to add mine, fantastic, I'll do that. If not, great, I'll just use what they've got there. And it's almost nothing. Like, there's so many. I mean, what equipment do you use on stage as a guitarist?
For me, I'm very much a basic as I can kind of thing, because I have a nature for tripping over wires. So I don't use any pedals. I think I have a UK rig. I have an overseas rig. So with Repulsive Vision, if it's UK, I have a PV Rockmaster preamp going into a Marshall. I think it's 9400 double valve amp. More often than not, I'm only using one side of the valves. I don't really need both sides. If we've got two cabs, sometimes if because we've only got one guitarist in the band, it gives it a bit more lift. So there's that. Usually, I'm a Les Paul player. Always have been. They just find they feel more comfortable. I'm not one for a low action either. Kind of a bit more of a medium kind of action. Because I prefer me bends like
Yeah.
Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of style bends. And I'm not much of a shred guitarist. I'm more of a legato player. Um, when we go overseas, it becomes a little bit more difficult. Obviously, with amps trying to get over to another country, and usually I like to try and make sure my rig can stay in one guitar case. So I use a HM2. Usually just use whatever head they have. Most festivals kind of have more a backline, you know. When it comes to when I'm playing with Woombath, I play bass for that, and more often than not, it's just plugged straight into the amp with obviously a tuner. But I'm not one for focusing too heavily on tone, as long as I've got some kind of grit to it and
Hmm.
keeping it quite basic. I have been contemplating getting a boost for my solos, but again, more often than not, it's not really as important because um, the bass kind of covers a lot of it, but doesn't have the same kind of grit that the guitars. We tend to have cleaner bass as well,
Okay.
so
Yeah, no, that's fantastic though. You know, you do adapt to it, which is great. I'm sure you've had that with loads of guitarists who are like, nah, I want my entire rig 24/7. It's like you can't have it all.
no,
It's
you can't.
impossible. I mean, personally, I'm someone who um I like having everything exactly the way that I want it. That's why something like a Helix is like the best thing in the world for me. Like I fuck about with IRs day and night
Mm.
and love it. I've got the tone that I want. Done. Fantastic. But there's a lot of guitarists that I've seen that have like spaceship pedal boards. It's like, dude, you're in a fucking rock band. You don't need. Why do you have a phaser? I've not heard you use a phaser this entire gig. The fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, it's all to show off sometimes. You know, sometimes I do feel a bit kind of like left out when I play a festival and like every band has got like a huge like kind of pedal board. I'm thinking, well, there's me just plugging straight into the amp, you know. But I've my amp is more of a rack unit, so it has all of the kind of tone that I want. But the PB Rockmaster itself is I'm not saying literally, but it's kind of a 5150 and a HM2 built in one,
Yeah.
and you know it sounds amazing. The Marshall itself gives you all the kind of warmth and of what you expect from the valves, you know. And beyond that, I'm using EMG pickups and bare knuckle. You know, it's all I need.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. Again, you're adapting to the situation that you need to adapt to, because you're not Metallica. I'm not Metallica. Well, I can't.
No.
We can't bring all of our amps with us 24/7 if you want to. Um, no, and that's perfectly fine. Funnily enough, on the I'm between two tones at the moment. Either
Mm.
using a copy of a 5150 EVH
Okay.
or a Mesa dual rectifier.
Mm.
I've got two very different tones of both of them. I'm just like, which one do I want?
I mean, so one's a bit more scooped kind of thing. One's a bit more kind of
It's
trebly, and the other one's a bit more deep.
Yeah, I feel like with the Mesa, I'm getting a nicer low end,
Mm.
and I'm getting a bit more clarity within the noise. While with the PV, I feel like I'm getting more of a straight punchy tone, but it's very, I should say, because the tone I was trying to go for beforehand was very Trivium in waves, because I love
Mm.
their tone on that. So I found a preset that someone managed to make. Oh, that's great. Moved it about. I thought, I don't like this. I don't like that. I want to move, like, just working from that. I thought, that sounds great. And it sounded great on record. But then I've sort of listened back on in regards to the mix. Thought, oh, it's a bit hissy what I've done here. What do I do here? Yada, yada. So I've been fucking about. So I'm like, it's tight. It's really tight. And for some mixes, it works so well. It's like practically mix ready. While then with the Mesa, I feel like I've probably got a little too much. Where it's like, yeah, you're gonna probably have to EQ quite a few bits out. I'm like, I really like it, but then again, we'll see what happens for the record. We've only gotten to a point where we've finished writing the songs. We're just changing arrangements and shit now. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what I'll use and whether my solo guitar will ever show up.
I mean, that's the exciting part of an album, when it comes to the kind of writing side of things. Once you've kind of got the basics kind of nailed, and then you can kind of play about with it. I mean, this is one of the reasons why we kind of took so long with the second album. It took us 3 years to actually release it. It's because most of the material was written maybe about 6 months after the first album was released, and back in 2017. And I think what's best is that it's taken us all that time to kind of learn it, adapt it, and build on it.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know your songs until you've played them and played them, played them and played them. Each of these songs will turn up. We practice at least two, like twice a week. Well, we used to before lockdown, should we say? So every time we go in there, it's okay. So we'll do this, do this, do this, do this. Oh, why do we try it this way? Why do we do this? Why do we do that? And then that's when the creativity really strikes. Once you've got your backbone, then it's fine. Get your lyrics on top. That's cool. Then it's when all the actual proper creativity works. It's the trimming the fat, and and I think that's where our sound comes from, less from the tone, because really, I mean, I'm not one that's going to use any kind of there's no chorus kind of ballad parts or anything like that. It's just pure punk influenced death metal. It's in your face distortion. There's no clean passages. There's never going to be any clean passages. And that's our style. What's important is structure for us. It's about what works, and if that means listening to something 1,000 times until you feel that the structure's correct, that's the important bit. And even then, we're quite simplistic in what we do. We're not overly complicated or progressive, even though the new album's a bit more progressive, and the album after that we're currently writing now is a more progressive than that. But it's still simplistic. We're not over complicating things.
Yeah, you're not going past the point like, well, we don't need this.
Exactly.
There was, it's going back to Ghost. Actually, there was something very important that I think when he did the third album, the producer said something very important to Tobias. He had like a little fill section in parts, and he goes, "What purpose does this bit have? Oh, it sounds, it doesn't have a purpose. Then why the fuck do you have it in there?" I think that's the thing. I feel, yeah, with metal, I think a lot of people just try and. It completely depends on what level and how you work. Some people can do it, some people can't. Is a lot of people do go from the first draft, and then that's it.
Yeah.
But you can feel that as well. It's the same as what they say with live. The audience can smell bullshit from a mile away.
100%. 100%. I 100% believe that you can't make aggressive music unless you are feeling in a sense that you have that emotion inside you. I know, I mean, this is another reason why it takes me so long to write music, is that I don't want to make fake music. I don't want to sit there and like, oh, that'll do, I want to sit there and think, right, okay, this is what it feels like. This is what I'll usually come up with a title or a subject when I write a riff. Now, I'll kind of, one of my things is I'll watch a lot of documentaries. I'll read a lot. I'll make notes as much as I can. And quite often I'll have my guitar with me when I'm watching a documentary, and I'll be just pissing about, just playing, and if something comes about, like a subject or a line or something that just kind of clicks, and I just think, right, that's interesting, I'm going to do that, and then I'll move on from that and I'll work it. I'll have that subject matter and that thought process in my head throughout the entirety of the writing, and from there it just flows. It's been quite an inspirational kind of time at the moment with lockdown. I've not been practicing as much, but but I've been practicing at home and I've been working on new things. So I'm trying to think one of the subject matters we've been working on. The next album is going to be something of a concept album. I mean, again, this is all early kind of things regarding success and the fear of success and what it would lead to, and not necessarily that we're successful or anything like that, but I
But
think
the
that
idea of it, the potential for, so, oh, what about this? What about that? What about, yeah, just
exactly,
like, yeah, creating stories, so to speak. But with
yeah,
the my wording's really poor. I'm very sorry, everyone. Um, it's yeah, yeah, it's essentially stories and what if, essentially, what if
yeah.
stories.
One of the ones is called one of the songs we're writing at the moment is called Acrophobia, which is the fear of heights.
Yeah,
And on the face value, again, it's the same thing. Like people are gonna say, "God, that's not really something you write death metal songs about." Fear of heights. It's a bit kind of, but at the same time, it's kind of we're talking about the fear of the height of success and the fall at the end. And we've got it. The next song goes into something called L'appel de vide, which is a French phrase which loosely translates to the call of the void. And it's that moment of when you were, let's say, you were kind of walking along like a cliff edge or something like that. It's that one kind of thing in your mind that says, "Oh, you should jump off." It's basically a psychological concept that oh, you could end it right now, but you don't. It's not a suicidal thought, but it's like those kind of instantaneous things that makes you think, oh, I should just drive into traffic, and you think of it for a second, and it's gone. It's called Appel de Vide, and we thought that was quite an interesting thing in that kind of respect, where you have that success, you have that opportunity, you're at that height, and at any moment you keep getting those thoughts of, should I quit? Is this, am I in over my head? Should I leave? Should I stop doing this because this is too much?
hmm.
And the album itself, we've got a lot of influence on other songs like Self Sabotage, and yeah, it's I think we're going to call the album Cautionary Tales for this, because we had a lot of advice from people with what we were doing, and we made stupid mistakes, very stupid mistakes. We signed some contracts that we should never have done because people were promising us the world but didn't deliver. And I think you live and learn, and it's enough. It's enough inspiration to kind of build from that, and hopefully try and inspire other people to kind of make the right decision.
And that's the thing, that's, as you're saying, it's a concept album, which is great because you've got something to say.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the one of the things that's so important on when you release an album rather than an EP. Because as you were saying earlier, metal's dead, blah blah blah, all that cognitive nonsense. Um, and like, oh, albums are dead. Well, they're not dead. It's a lot of bands just write albums for the sake of writing albums. They don't write an album with, oh, we have this concept. This is what we want to say in the album. If you only have a few songs, fine. But yeah, fine. Release it as an EP if that's what you want. But so, and as someone said this to me ages ago, and their band does release albums, and it is, when was the last time you saw an EP or a single in a record store? Yeah, whether record stores are still worth their salt is completely up to the person who listens to this, as we all have our own thoughts on this, I believe. But
hmm
yeah, you only ever see albums. You might see a limited edition EP vinyl, but they're so rare and far between, you can't really rely on that. Albums, yeah, people still buy them. People still like CDs. People still like vinyls. They just don't buy them in the same capacity as they were before, which is fine. You have things like Spotify, streaming, and yeah, things have changed, but that just means we all, as musicians, have to adapt, which I think I feel like we're seeing more of that. I think we're seeing a lot more of that adaptability. Going back to Trivium, absolute wonderful. Uh, yeah, and I think that's a great example. Is Matt Heffy? Uh, okay, yeah, got Trivium, fantastic. Not on tour with Trivium, doing Twitch, still doing music. Is just not on tour at the moment, that's
Exactly.
that's fantastic. You don't like Twitch, fine. You can go see them on tour. You have a choice of how you want to see them, which is the same with Patreon. A lot of people don't feel like, oh, Patreon's a bad idea. There's a jazz musician who does a lot of educational things way above my head. I watch it and I feel, you know, dumb as shit. But yeah, it'll do that. And his video for the Patreon makes so much sense. Classical musicians, they weren't getting paid by the public, they were getting paid by patrons, rich people who are like, okay, I want you to write me an opera because you're a talented musician. Same as a
Yeah.
record label, there's no difference of that. However, the general person has more money than they used to back in the good old days when everyone was a farmer and could barely feed themselves. You can be a patron, you can be someone who supports a band or an artist or whatever in that manner. There's nothing wrong with that. It's going back to basics. It's going back to how it was. It's the same
Yeah.
as with when the CDs and records first came about and record labels and tours. These old musicians never had to tour before. They just made music and people came. Fantastic. Suddenly, oh, you need to go around the country and you need to sell records and merchandise and all this other stuff. Like, what? No, that's not right. I should have patronage. You should be paying me to stay in the same place 24/7. It's the same concept.
I think that there's something of a disparity with, well, the internet kind of decimated the music scene. Well, no, that's a lie. It decimated the music industry.
Yeah,
The scene itself is 1,000 times stronger with it, because not only are people able to create music easier with technology as it is in their own home, unbelievable, and there's tutorials everywhere. YouTube, all over the internet, tutorials saying this is how you do this. But with that in mind, you are having to wade through a eternal sea of amateurs before you get to the bands or the artists that are doing well, and they don't always rise to the top, because you can be the best band in the world. If you do not have the right promotion, then you are gonna,
if
you
you're
know,
marketing shit, you're never gonna get anywhere.
100%. I don't necessarily think that Repulsive Vision are one of the best bands here. Obviously, I am my own worst critic, but at the same time, I think that because we pushed what we could to get to where we are, um, we've had what I like to call relative success. Although people seem to think success is a black and white thing. It's you're either
No,
successful or you're a failure. That's not the case. If you at any point in this, every opportunity is a success. If you are able to do anything, you've been able to make an album, and who cares? 5 people have listened to it. That's 5 successes. You know, 5 people listen to it, even if it's just your mum and her dog. That's success that someone's paid attention to you. And I've started from the off. Pre pre YouTube kind of era. We're kind of trying to do our shit locally, and it just didn't work because we didn't know what to do.
yeah,
Now with social media, it's kind of helped everything. I've been able to, even this interview itself is all through the power of social media. The fact that through some contact, we've been able to kind of,
exactly.
find each other and then start talking. That's amazing. I wish more local bands would put more initiative into looking elsewhere and looking into what they can do to kind of um, build more contacts, do more networking.
Yeah,
Um, I don't think we'll ever, sell 1 million records. I don't think we'll ever make a major label. But in accepting that, I feel more empowered with what I'm doing, and accepting that, do you know what, I don't need to pander to the labels, I don't need to pander to this, because there's a label here who will support us. And I talk to them on a daily basis, and hugely supportive.
Yeah.
They're getting back to me.
You'd hope a label would be supportive having you on as well, and not just keep you
Can I
cool. Yeah.
can I say from experience, it's not always the case.
Oh yeah.
Mighty and Emancipation. Well, there was a reason why we wanted to work with those guys again. They helped us out in a black spot because I'm not going to go into the details of it, but our label let us down the first one in a very big way, and thankfully we had a clause in our contract that allowed us to kind of get out of that contract. Yeah, they lied to us about getting an album printed, and so we had an album opening party. The morning of it, they said you won't have your album by that day. So so basically we managed to get out of the contract, and they rescued us and basically made the contract. And it was just the right place at the right time and the right people to listen. That's all you need, is the right people listening.
Yeah. I mean, as you were saying earlier about successes, one thing that people don't know is you're going to fail many, many times before you be successful.
Yep.
I've mentioned this in a previous podcast. Frank Zappa, great example, because again, I'm obsessed. I'm a stalker. Even he says, like, the amount of times I failed is ridiculous, but that's not what I'm going to talk about in interviews. Why? Because it's a waste of time. I'm going to tell you what I'm successful at and what I've done, because I'm proud of that. What I failed at, fantastic. I've learned from that. I've learned from that failure. So every failure in some way is a success as long as you learn from it.
Exactly. I think that I've made stupid decisions. We signed that thinking, everything's all great, and what was worse was that we signed the deal, and again, we did our research. We kind of asked a couple of bands, but we didn't realize that those couple of bands were kind of affiliated with the label boss, so they were getting all of the attention, all of the money, all of the support, and the other bands on the outside weren't getting half as much, us included. So because one of their vinyls wasn't selling, they decided not to front the money for us to get our CDs. And thankfully, we were able to work with Mighty, and Mighty, on the other hand, couldn't do more for us. The promotion side, they pushed us, and ever since they've done exactly the same. And this time around, the deal was 5 times as good as the first deal we had, and that's the sign of people who are genuinely into what you're doing, genuinely into the music, and they genuinely have faith in what you're doing. And that's what keeps us going, is people who like all our posts, the people who want to support, the people who want to sit here for 2.5 hours talking to me. It's amazing, and I appreciate every second of that, because I've been there before, where in the bands where no one cared.
But then that's that's the thing that people see. Going back to the whole people can smell bullshit from a mile away. From that first label experience, you could have been, fuck it, I'm not going to do music anymore. Just fuck it, I'm not going to deal with labels anymore. I'll do it all myself. Blah 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 blah. No, you learn from that experience. You've analysed what went wrong, and you moved on from that. And now you're in a better position than you were before, because you powered through and thought, okay, what can I do in this situation? You've adapted, which is, again, power to yourself, and nothing but mad respect for that as well, because I know a lot of people that would just put down the instrument permanently from doing that. So
I mean,
yeah,
the big success story I have for not having a label is Twisted Illusion.
I know them, yeah.
Yeah, Twisted Illusion. My God, the amount of promotion and support they have, and they've never needed a label. He's never needed a label, and respect to him, complete respect. He's done it all organically. He's created something that is respected, and and that's he would be my counter argument. Whereas I'm very pro label,
Yeah,
he is very anti-label because he didn't need that label. He did it through the Patreon kind of Kickstarter kind of way. If you've got that support, then do it.
I think, but that's the thing. What we were talking about earlier on in regards to labels, it comes. I think it all comes down to there's not just one part. There's no one path to success. As well with being subjective, what success means to some people. To some people, it could mean, oh, I've opened for my favorite band. Done. I don't need to do anything more. For other people, is I want to make a living from music. For others, it's, oh, I want to be famous. That's fine.
Hmm.
Whatever your definition is fine. Um, I don't think. I personally think there's no such thing. There shouldn't be a cognitive behaviour between of, oh, labels are shit. I don't believe in labels, or I, I believe in doing everything independently, or, oh no, you need to go with label, that kind of thing. It depends on what band you are, who's
Hmm.
in your band, the music you're making, your fan base. There's all these different elements need to be considered. Um, as an example, um, okay, we make this kind of music. Fantastic. I live in so and so country. There's no there's no industry here. There's no
Hmm.
industry. There's no need for this kind of music here. Nobody listens to it. Okay, what do I do? Okay, I don't know a lot of people. I'm isolated. I'm quite a loner. What do I do? Okay, I need to go to a label or PR, or I just pay for PR, or so on and so forth. There's some people that can do it all for free. There's some people that can do it, and power to them. Absolute respect for the people that can. However, not everyone's that person.
No.
We're all different people. Again, music itself subjective due to, you can't say that person's gonna love my music. You can't. They might like a
Mm.
similar kind of music, but it's not the same thing. Same as with support. You might have like a really professional package, as in a band, not your
No.
genitalia. Oh, it's very well groomed, thank you very much. But uh, you can be one of those people that, yeah, you can have professional package, fantastic, looks brilliant. No one wants to support it. Uh,
Yeah.
God knows what reason. It might be you don't have a label to push it. Okay, fine. Or you can do the independent thing. You might not be good at it.
Mm.
It's just different elements, really. I think to Twisted Illusion, yeah, big respect that you can do that, and that he has. There's loads of people that say don't go with labels, and as you said, with the experience you've had, it can be very off-putting. It can. It's a business. That's what labels are there for. They're a business, and they're here to check the statistics. That, okay, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. We know this works, we know that works, but then it's music, so there's a half and half of, this is a business, this is art, and
Yeah.
there's the middle point that needs to be reached with that, depending on what kind of music you're making or band, and so on and so forth. I can just repeat that on a loop for the next 2 hours if you like.
I mean, for me as well, a lot of people who are on labels leave the label to it. Whereas I'm very much the opposite. The label is doing us a PR campaign and all this kind of stuff. They're sending to all their contacts and all that kind of shit. So that's been fantastic. If you type in Repulsive Vision Necrovictology on Google, there's 300 bloody things where every single zine in the world that they've applied to has put it. But I'm also doing my own promotion as well.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
this is an example.
exactly. I think that's important, is that it's you don't just kind of stop because someone else is doing the job for you. You've got to do your own stuff as well.
Exactly, and you're completely right with that. Yeah, the a label is not here to be your personal secretary. That's not what
Mm.
their job is. And I think there was something I read in one of the business books I've read, and I found that's quite true, within a degree, of course, which is a label is not here to get you a fan base. They're here to
No.
promote you. They're here to get you. You're the one that has to get the fan base, and you need to do the footwork. You need to do the groundwork. Only until even guys like Metallica, biggest band in the world, charge like 2 million for every concert. They're still doing the footwork.
Yeah. Still doing YouTube stuff, and they're still talking about what is important to them. You know, people have to think outside the box because, believe me, there's hundreds of thousands of other bands who are probably better than you doing it. You know, there are great musicians that don't know how to market, and there are great marketers that don't know how to write music. You know,
Exactly.
there are some terrible bands that are doing extremely well, and there's some great bands that are doing nothing. You know, and I mean, you're talking about EPs as well. You know, this is another thing that I'm on the fence about because if you only have 4 good songs, then release an EP, or wait until you've got the rest of them to make an album, because albums tend to be more respected. I mean, I can't tell you many iconic EPs.
Yeah.
You know, I can tell you thousands of albums that I feel are iconic. You know, and that's no disrespect to any bands that do EPs, but really an EP is just it's kind of a collection of songs. It's not something of massive release quality.
It's
You
not a
know,
statement. An album is a
it's not
state.
a state.
An album has to be a statement.
It has to flow. I mean, unless it's a collection of songs, you know, because that's another thing with albums. I, I mean, I don't want to sound arrogant or anything. I go through my album over and over and over and over and over and over again. And so I know someone mastered it, someone else mixed and mastered it, but I organized it. So I kind of said, right, okay, so this is track one. This is how it's supposed to go, and this is how I want it to flow. So that when I put that CD in, start to finish, I know the story. You know, an album has to have that kind of flow to it,
Yeah.
and you know, it's deliberate. It's orchestrated and it's thought about. You know, and this is something that a lot of people don't think. They'll just think, oh well, we've got 12 songs, let's just throw them all together. Oh, that one's a good one. That one's a good one. That's a lot of people, in fact, because of the whole Spotify thing, are putting their best songs as the first three.
No.
Best 3 songs of the album, just put them on the top three, and then just randomize the rest of them. It doesn't work
It's
like that.
it doesn't, and if someone, because people still buy CDs, people still buy physical media. Some people want to listen to the whole album like that, and that's fine, and that's, you know, however you intend to listen to it. Um,
Yeah,
in regards of EPs, no, I agree with, we've released an EP, but that's our first release. There's
yeah.
only three
Oh,
songs,
100%.
so it's like that's nothing. But thinking further about it, I think a single has more uh has more value personally. Now I could be completely wrong. There's a comment section, so if I'm wrong, just tell me. It's fine. I'm used to it. But a single, you can put all your focus into that one song if you wanted to. Do a music video, do a lyric video, whatever you want to do with that. It has, in my eyes, more marketability than an EP. An EP is not quite a single, but it costs more than a single, so you can't really do something for each and every song because like you're not really going to get a return on that.
No, you're
While an
not.
album, you are more you are more likely to get a return on that, and you've got more songs to present as well. So you're giving someone an actual experience. 3 to 6 songs, it's not much of an experience. But then again, that depends on what kind of music you make and create. Something like dubstep and hip hop, fine. That most people only want to listen to the one song. That's
Yeah.
fine. But you've got someone like metal fans, so and so. They want to listen to the whole thing. They're people that will buy deluxe albums. Like, oh, you've got that B side and stuff like that. Um, Rammstein, that is an example that comes to mind. When they released their newest album, they released 3 tracks from the new album, but with each track they've got the original track, a remix, and like an outside, like a remix done by themselves, like an electronic one
Okay.
or something like that. And then the third one would be a re-envisioning by someone else or an actual B-side or something like that, which I found was really cool. I think one of them, going back to Matt Heffy, because yeah, why not? He's done like no, I'm thinking of a Lindemann song, but yeah, Matt Heffy did an acoustic version over a song that the singer of Rammstein did for his solo project, and that was part of the B-side single, which that's really cool. And a lot of bands like that do that at the moment, which I find has so much. Again, it's not a single; it's a single for the album, but I digress. Still, you can put all that focus into that.
100%. I could say a single will do more for you than an EP.
Yeah,
Yeah. I said I can't really think of any iconic EPs. I know plenty of like demos and all that kind of stuff,
yeah,
like Nihilist stuff and all that, which they're not the same. A demo
no,
is something that I consider to be more of like a rehearsal tape kind of thing, whereas an EP, I'm thinking more of a professional. It's like a short
yeah,
album, a half
no, and
album.
you're completely right with that. With EPs, I was going to say something about it, and I forgot about it now. I've lost
Oh,
my train
sorry.
of thought. No, it's fine. Actually, this is one thing that I found very clever that Ghost did. On the third record, they released the album, then they released an EP, but because it was the same producer and sort of like same kind of songs, they then re-released the album with the EP,
Okay.
so you could get both at the same time. And I thought that was really clever that they were able to do that. But then that's kind of, I think that's more of a luck thing unless you're like really planning for it.
Hmm. I mean, Joe Satriani did something very similar, where he released, I think it was Engines of Creation, with additional creations, this little EP. It was like a limited edition EP, which is just remixes. And I thought that was quite an interesting concept, where an EP can kind of extend, because that's what EP stands for, extended play.
Yeah,
It extends the point of what your album has, if it
it's
has
album
B-side.
DLC. It's additional story DLC.
Yeah, good example, yeah. Exactly, and I think that there have been singles that have inspired me hugely. I mean, I randomly bought a box set of a band called the Helicopters, and
Hmm.
it became one of my favorite bands, and they became a massive influence. EP wise, I mean, Separation have released 3 EPs, and they're phenomenal. UK death metal, but I always said though at the time, I wish they'd left the last 2 EPs and just made an album out of the
Yeah,
two, because it would have been a lot stronger. But
yeah,
again, that's their decision, and they picked that, because I think Separation are one of the best UK bands, and they have over the past 10 years they have been one of the best UK death metal bands. But I mean, the scene at the moment is very, very strong, and it's great seeing these bands that we kind of rose up at the same time as, Sathamel and Live Burial, Cryptic Shift. These bands that we were playing with in dive bars about 5-10 years ago nearly, and here they are, playing overseas, releasing
yeah.
albums that are selling extremely well. It's exciting.
I think that goes back to the internet thing that we were talking about before. I think metal had a very big problem between. I think generally music had quite a big problem somewhere between like 2012, somewhere between 2010 and 2015.
Mm.
I think it had a very big problem where social media was a thing, but it wasn't quite the behemoth that it is now. And you didn't have services to accommodate some of these things. Like you've got something like Fiverr,
Mm.
which provides you so many services. You want a song written? Fiverr. You want artwork done? Fiverr. Word of mouth if you want. Yeah, that's fantastic. You can do that. Brilliant. But you've got these services here now. You've got them now, so you can do more things like this. I'm sure, like, you used to have a lot of these little, what I call little cheat codes that you used to have with like YouTube and Twitter and Facebook. Oh, if you do this, more people will see you now. now it's more streamlined to a point of, okay, I need to pay £10 for this and this many people to see it. You can do it for free if you're very, very clever. I'm not one of those clever people. I
No,
know
I
I'm
mean,
not.
me
I
neither.
do, and I don't think anyone in the band has either the connections nor the uh, entrepreneurship to be able to do these kinds of things themselves. I'm probably insulting all of them. I'm sorry, guys. You're all very clever, but I think we're all not very great at this. But um, that's why something like a label or a PR firm, fantastic. I can go on there. There's no like something like Fiverr. Brilliant thing with that. You're not on a contract. It's literally just here's your 50 quid. There's terms and conditions there. Fantastic. If you break them, fine. I'll get my money back. If you've done your job, great, fantastic, done. I paid you for your service. I've received my service. Which is what things like that are. It's not that's where the music thing sort of splits a little bit. Where you have to think, okay, I'm not in a band. I'm a business person. I need to conduct business so people can hear this piece of art that I've created.
It's where you get sponsored posts, and most of the people liking it aren't people who would ever listen to your music. And I know that's it. Almost seems very kind of false doing it. You know, just kind of there's. It's hard enough because I think I learned a lot of lessons from the first album. The first album, I can understand why people definitely supported it. Don't get me wrong. You know, we got I think we're up to nearly 75,000 players on Spotify. You know, we've done well. We've sold several thousand albums. I'm happy with how that went. But at the same time, I can kind of see why we didn't do it as well because I was naive. You know, the music wasn't quite as good as it is now. We've improved a lot. And I think that, you know, we did it organically through our own fan base. Now, I don't know whether that's the right way to go about it, and maybe we should have kind of opened up um, correspondence with different styles. But it's very hard to influence, say, a black metal fan who just likes black metal to
Mm.
like our music because it's not very black metal at all. We have got some influences in the new album, but it's it's difficult because you have to be a businessman. You have to kind of know why your product is marketable. You have to know why people would want to use your product. Really, you know, I've learned completely off the bat. All of this is kind of new territory, really, for the entire industry. I know it's been going about for the past 20 years, but still, it's in terms of like the underground, people are still learning how they don't really know and demographics. I think Spotify has become more popular in the past 3 years since we released the first album. I mean, time will tell because now's the time where the album release is imminent, and it's like the lottery. You've just spent. I'm not going to tell you how much we spent on the album, but when you've spent a lot of money, several £1,000s, creating something, several years, you hope that people are going to enjoy it. The reviews are going to be good. You just have to anticipate that what you've put your effort into will connect with people.
Yeah,
If it doesn't, then you're just going to try again or give up. There's only two options.
of course.
And thankfully it's connected with some people. The label, for one, we've been able to get a few festival positions as a result of what we've been able to present to people, and we've just confirmed a gig in Spain recently with
Nice.
Ancient Steel, which would be good. Ancient Steel, Acid Rain. Who else is on? A few, but open air festival over in Spain, which would be nice and should be fun. We were supposed to be on tour in Spain one year, but the gigs ended up being cancelled. We were stuck in
Is this
Madrid.
because of all the hair loss?
Oh yes.
You've
No,
grown up
we
very
were.
quickly. big respect for growing all this hair back.
Yeah. Oh, this is a wig. This isn't real. No, but yeah, we were kind of stranded in Madrid. Like, kind of, what should we do? Oh, let's just get pissed. But you know, I think you've got to see this kind of, because making music more often than not will not make you money. It'll cost you more money than you make. But it's why it's a labour of love. You've got to love what you're doing. You've got to think when you sat there in, oh, when we were sat there in Lisbon airport for a 12-hour delay, you know, you've got to kind of look at yourself and think, this is the dream. This is why I do this
But
shit. You know.
this is the shit that happens with big bands as well. That's the thing.
Oh, it
Stuff like that.
does.
It happens to everyone.
Yep. I was caught in a flight delay when I went. I played Scandinavia Death Fest with Woombath and Dan Lilke from Brutal Truth and Anthrax and all that was just there. So we ended up having a chat. It's like, what other experience would you have for that? You know.
But
You know.
that's what makes metal so absolutely amazing as a genre. The big guys, your elders, so it's your higher peers, not elders. Sorry.
Exactly.
They just hang around with you. They just hang out there. If you I remember, I went to Bloodstock 2018, and I saw pictures afterwards. Like, you got Dino from fucking Fear Factory just walking about. I was like,
Oh,
what?
it's great.
It's like, how the fuck did I not notice Dino? What?
I saw Chris Jericho walking around Bloodstock one
Oh yeah.
year, and it was like, what? What?
It's like they don't. They just go about. It's like, oh, hello, but they're left alone as well. Like they're just quick, hire, and go. That's it.
Yeah. Not swarmed or anything like that. It's like, hi, will you sign my ticket, or will you have a handshake? Or, oh, I'm a big fan. Can I have a picture? Selfie. It's there's no disrespect there.
You got someone like Billie Eilish who, in like a pop festival that she would attend, the clothes on her back would probably get ripped off.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah.
sort
Disrespectful. Yeah.
yeah, I think I saw a video a little while ago that someone sent me, and she went to the crowd, like the little tube bits that you got where it splits the crowd, and then the singer or whatever could just sort of go there. It's like, oh, hi guys, yeah, it's really nice. Someone basically choked her out and grabbed the ring off her finger. It's like,
Bastards.
what the actual fuck? And people got really pissed off at that person. They knew who it was.
Hmm.
They kicked them out because they're like, nah, they're gonna fucking kill them.
Hmm.
And I don't know. Lots of people say she handled it really well. I don't really see the meaning behind it. She just went back on stage like, "Ah, okay, some fucker stole my ring. All right, you cherish that shit then." And it's like, or you just cherish that. I'm just chucking swear words in at that point, just because
Hmm.
I'm a vile human creature. But it's like, you're not. I don't think that's handled particularly well either. It's not.
No.
It's not good or bad. Just quite neutral. It's like it's not really a comeback or trying to defuse the situation. It's kind of It's kind of a nothing statement.
Yeah. And I can sympathise at the fact that she's in such a place of severe scrutiny that any kind of volatile speech will be on TMZ before the end of the night. I think that's very much just as much our doing as it is her doing.
Oh yeah.
The fact is that society won't let her kind of have that honest thing. I think she dealt with it in a very clever way.
Mm.
Because at this point, being neutral in that situation, because really she should have said, "What the fuck?" There's a lot of videos of artists getting getting back at hecklers.
Yeah.
Like Henry Rollins and Corey Taylor and all this kind of stuff, and big mouths, people who can kind of say this and they'll get the respect back. But
Yeah.
you know,
Who was there? Was one guy I don't remember who it was. I think at the end of their set, he did an acoustic part, and there were people talking in the crowd, and he was telling them off 2 or 3 times, and he just stopped. And he was like, "Nah, fuck this. I'm going. I'm leaving." And just got really upset, which is understandable. Completely
I
understandable
can't
why
remember
you'd
who
get
it
upset.
was.
But
Oh, I know who it was. It was the guy from Stained, Aaron
yes,
Lewis. Yeah,
and he got really really upset about that. It's again that's a complete opinion things where whether you're like, okay, you bought the ticket, show respect to the artist, or well, I bought the ticket, I can do whatever the fuck I want. So that
yeah,
I think there's a two mind thing about that. But yeah, it all comes down to how you react to that. With that, I do, because Billie Eilish is still quite young. I think she's only 18 now, something like
I
that.
think she just turned 18, didn't she?
And she's gotten a lot of success in a very short amount of time. So I really
Mm.
hope that doesn't fuck with her at all.
I don't think there's a way that it can't really. I think there is a definite difference in scenes. I think that there's a lot more respect in the underground scene in terms of like big stars and all that kind of shit. Obviously you get your weekend warriors who don't really understand what a mosh pit means, but they think it's a fight, so they'll go in there, and have a, you know, I don't want to disrespect people and say, oh, I'm elitist and all, and all these posers getting away. I think that sometimes that there is a lapse um, in respect and etiquette and those kind of things. Although they're not really prominent usually in the metal scene. Granted, as someone who is a white male metalhead, I can't really say for certain because I'm not the one who's dealt with them.
Mm.
Sexual harassment obviously is something that is prominent, well, in the
Oh yeah,
world, not just the metal scene. So, but I think on the whole, I'd like to think that we're understanding, we're vocal people, we're very opinionated people. That's for sure. I know I am, and I like to think that we have that kind of um, ability to speak our minds and be honest about how we feel about certain situations.
yeah. No, and you're completely right with that. Just realised we've gone to about almost 3 hours at this point. I think
Yep,
I need
3 hours.
almost 3 hours. Before we do finish this,
Hmm.
are there any plugs or anything that you want to mention before we have to shut this beautiful, beautiful conversation down?
Well, for one, I will say thank you very much for speaking to me. I really appreciate your supporting Repulsive Vision, myself, and everything that I've kind of done. It has been great. It's been really, it's been unique. It's been a conversation piece, and I really appreciate the freedom that you've given us. And it's been intelligent debate, and that's an important thing for me. Is instead of the
It is a
usual,
one-sided, intelligent debate. Then I'm here as well.
oh, no, 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 no. Do you know what? I've learned a lot today. Just I think that it's been great to have that, and I think that connection of opinions as well is very good. And don't sell yourself short. You
Oh,
know,
thank you very much.
I would also like to say, obviously, Repulsive Vision's new album, Necrovictology, will be coming out August 21st. Finally, we've already had the first single out on the 14th. That was Regrets featuring Landfill. We have our second single, Other Than Divine, featuring Max Otero from Merciless, coming out August 14th, I believe. Keep posted for a new Woombath EP coming up soon. No, it's probably more of an album actually. It's about 40 minutes. So yeah, support, and really hope you support this channel. Doing great work.
Thank you very much. Yes, don't forget to follow Repulsive Vision and listen to everything they have. Buy all their merch. So, you know, buy everything. Support. And yeah, like and subscribe to the Mesmerise podcast. Thank you very much for coming on, dude. And I hope to have
Thank you
you
very much.
on sometime in the future as well.
Absolutely. Well, we need to get a pint someday.
Oh, we definitely do. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.